Imagine hearing that in your house, all day and all night, various times. Even the biggest dog lover would have enough after a while, and that's what some of these neighbors have been experiencing for several years now. They have been trying to get the neighborhood, quote-unquote, puppy mill shut down. They thought they were successful several months back when the court ordered them to shut it down and get rid of the dogs. However, that doesn't seem to have happened as we're back in court, and they still have the dogs. So we're going to look back at the first hearing first. If you've already seen this one, you can skip forward about an hour and 15 minutes to the new hearing. And if you haven't seen it or you want to watch it again, it's a little slow, but it's pretty interesting.
And we're here today on a matter for temporary restraining order. I'll give a brief opening statement.
Are the respondents here?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to have your client come up and have a seat there by you.
So, Your Honor, we're here on a matter, Rule 65, motion for temporary restraining order. We filed a verified petition for injunctive relief on June the 30th of this year. I represent a number of neighbors, not all of whom could be here today, but I have at least 3 here today they live in the Camp Ravine subdivision area in Burns off of Highway 96. We filed this action against the respondents, Ms. Deborah Hawkins and Ms. Sandra Hawkins, and we are alleging that there is a violation of several things taking place in the neighborhood, namely restrictive covenant violation, and we'll enter some proof about that. We're also alleging that they're operating a commercial business in the neighborhood without a business license, and we're alleging that there is potentially a zoning violation, depending on how Your Honor interprets the zoning ordinance, and we'll put on some proof regarding that. Specifically, we will put on some proof that the Hawkins have a puppy mill in this neighborhood. It is consists of many dogs, probably more than a dozen dogs. They're caged, they're barking at all hours of the day and night. It's causing a significant disturbance and violating our clients' quiet enjoyment of their property. We sent notice to the Hawkins as per an attachment to the verified complaint. Notice was sent to them asking them to address this issue in April of this year, April the 18th. There was no response to that. There was no action taken to our knowledge. So we are asking today, we have no responsive pleading has been filed. A response to our motion was filed and received it this morning. Previously, if you'll recall, we were in court maybe 2.5, 3 weeks ago, and Your Honor set it today at counsel's request, and so we are prepared to go forward, and we will be asking Your Honor to put down a temporary order that they stop this puppy mill business in the neighborhood and take appropriate action to quiet their activities so that our clients can enjoy their properties. Because as Your Honor knows, if no TRO is entered, it could be many months before we could have a final hearing in this case. So we're prepared whenever you're ready.
All right. You wish to make an opening statement?
Again, Your Honor, Jordan Berger, National Bar. Your Honor, as an initial matter, I would like to point out that the surety bond that has been offered in this case, which I believe is just at around $500, is a little low, and especially for the purposes of what the injunction bond is to accomplish. I believe that's at the signature block page of the plaintiff's complaint. Your Honor, as you're likely well aware, plaintiffs, in order to be entitled to a temporary injunction, need to show immediate and irreparable injury in order to receive that relief. Your Honor, I think the testimony and other evidence will show that there is not immediate and irreparable injury in this case. Your Honor, Tennessee law is clear that with respect to noise in particular, and this comes from Caldwell v. Knox, Concrete Products at 391 Southwest 2nd at 910. With respect to noise in particular, no person is entitled to absolute quiet in the enjoyment of his or her property. Your Honor, in addition to immediate and irreparable injury, plaintiffs have to show, or a trial court under Tennessee law is required to consider that the granting the injunction for the plaintiff and what injury that would cause the defendant. In this case, we're understand that the plaintiffs are asking that the noise be quieted, but also here we're in a very rural area where there are animals. That's commonplace, livestock and other domesticated animals. And Your Honor, again, what the plaintiffs are asking for here is a mandatory injunction, which is an injunction that alters the status quo and orders the plaintiffs to take action, as opposed to restraining the defendants. And under Tennessee law, mandatory injunctions are extraordinary in nature and should be granted only in exceptional circumstances. Third, Your Honor, the plaintiffs must show a likelihood of success on the merits. And that has been widely held by Tennessee high courts to be the determinative factor in granting a temporary injunction. And Your Honor, as I do not believe that the proof will show that there will be immediate and irreparable injury. There is a very low likelihood of success on the merits in this case. Your Honor, in closing, I would like to point out that dicta in controlling Tennessee case law, recent case law, Newsom versus the Tennessee Republican Party, which is at 647 Southwest 3rd, 382, states there is no power, the exercise of which is more delicate, which requires greater caution, deliberation, and sound discretion, or is more dangerous in a doubtful case than the discretion of granting an injunction. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, you may call your first witness.
I'd like to call Andrew Thompson.
Thompson, if you'll come around, please. I'm going to ask you to step over here where the witness stand is and raise your right hand and be placed under oath.
All right, Mr. Thompson, we have a court reporter here, so I'd like to, if you would, just state your full name for the record for us.
Andrew Joseph Thompson.
And where do you live, Mr. Thompson?
I live at 1254 Camper Ravine Road, Burns.
Okay. And is that a subdivision that you live in?
It is.
Okay. And are you subject to certain restrictive covenants in that subdivision?
Absolutely.
Is that originally a farm's estate that you live in?
Yes.
Okay. And do you live in Section E of that estate?
Yes.
Okay. And how far do you live from the respondents, Ms. Hawkins and Ms. Hawkins?
Roughly 1,000 feet, give or take.
Okay. Is that approximately 3 football fields?
Yes.
Does your house, in which direction do you see them? In other words, when you come out of your house, what side of your house is their property?
If I'm on my back porch, it would be to my left.
Okay. And how long have you lived at this property?
I think since 2006, if I remember that correctly.
Okay. When did you notice that there was a problem?
Probably 3 to 4 years ago, and it just has gotten progressively worse.
And did it become worse enough for you to file this lawsuit?
Yes.
Was notice sent to the respondents on your behalf?
Yes.
Was there a response received?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Was notice sent in April of this year?
Yes.
Can you briefly just describe for the court what the current problem is?
If you like to sleep, it's a problem. If you like to have folks come by and if you like to sit on your back porch, it's a problem. If your kids are awake, instead of doing schoolwork or whatnot, it's a problem. It's just out of control. This is, to my knowledge, an unlicensed, undocumented, puppy mill. And the way that house angles towards mine, it's in a hollow, and you can hear everything that happens over there. There's one particular dog for probably a year's time that would bark continuously for what would sometimes be 5 to 6 hours. At least it seemed like that. Maybe a stressful situation, things of that nature. It's a quality of life issue. It's absolutely just a quality of life issue, and no one seems to care.
Can you see the dogs from your house?
Absolutely.
Tell the court what you see.
I see the dogs, they appear to be very dirty because part of the time they're outside. They do have some type of shelter that they go into, but they're not in there all the time. They are constantly running, jumping on the fence. They look like they're packed in. It does not look like a very accommodating situation to have 15 or so animals as a breeding ground.
Is that how many animals you see?
It's varied from time to time, but I believe that there's probably at least anywhere from 10 to 15. I try not to look. I'm sick and tired of seeing it.
Have you had the opportunity to record what you've seen?
Absolutely. Time and time again, at all hours of the night and day.
I'm gonna play, officer, if I can play I've got a couple of videos here and recordings on a thumb drive, Judge, and I've given a copy to counsel.
Let's, if it is a video, you mind hitting the lights?
How do I get the, well, the noise will not project there, it's only from my computer.
No, it'll come across the.
Okay,
You may have to turn your volume up.
okay. This way. I'll do it again, Judge, if I can, because I've got it's going to come through this mic, I guess. Stop with that one. Tell me what we're seeing there.
You're hearing and seeing what we deal with almost every day. We are standing on the back deck of our house, which we don't even use anymore because of this situation. And my camera or my wife's camera is pointed in the direction of this puppy mill.
Okay. Is that your deck?
That is correct.
Is that a separate incident?
Yes.
You know what time of day that was?
Morning or afternoon, I can't remember without looking at the timestamp on that particular video.
Whenever that happens, how long does the barking last?
It varies. As I stated before, there seems to be one particular dog that would bark for hours and hours and hours at a time, which would then in turn trigger other dogs within these very tight and compact kennels, for lack of a better term. It could be that there are quiet times of the day, but I guess they have to sleep sometime.
Okay. Show you another video. Did you and your wife take these videos?
Yes.
Were you together when you took these videos?
It's possible that we were together, or it's possible that we were separated. But we've looked at them together, and
She's here.
she is absolutely here. Yes, sir. May I add something?
Yes, is that from your backyard?
That is actually from the back right corner of my house. And I don't know if you can pick up on this, but sometimes the further that you're away, the worse it gets, because it is so shrill and so loud, and it echoes throughout the entire valley, that I've actually had people from the gated subdivision, Ridgelea subdivision, that is much, much, much further away from this puppy mill than my house is. They can hear it just like I can hear it, and they have asked, what in the world's going on over there?
I object to hearsay.
Sustain the objection as to hearsay.
Thank you, Judge.
10 o'clock at
Let me stop you there. Is that your voice on that video?
Yes,
And what did you say there?
10 o'clock at night.
Or what is that a picture of? What direction is that?
That was in the backyard, not standing on the deck, but in close proximity to where I was in the deck, or we were on the deck in previous locations. That is in my backyard.
So it's not like this property that the Hawkins own is not like right next to you.
No, it's about 1,000 feet.
So what we're
give or
hearing
take.
is at least, your testimony is 1,000 feet.
That is
more or
correct.
less. What would be the time of day of this?
Probably in the afternoon.
You stop there, Kent. Is that a picture of the dogs?
That is correct.
Through that gap between the trees?
Yes.
When you go outside, does it get worse?
Absolutely. Whenever they see anyone in close proximity, that triggers them. And one of the concerning things, just in my opinion, is that's a great picture of it right there. And I think you'll be able to see this when you play that video. I'm not sure that the conditions are conducive. Well, first of all, we know that that's not supposed to be happening, or at least we believe that.
I'm sorry, I got objected, calling for a legal conclusion, and I mean, he's kind of going beyond observational from his standpoint of view and making.
So you're objecting to that on what basis?
Lack of personal knowledge as far as the exact conditions that are within the confines of their property.
Rule, I'm going to allow him to, I think he's just basically stating what his concerns are about the situation and the situation the dogs are from what he observes. But I'm allowing it for that limited purpose.
You can continue, Mr. Thompson.
One of the things that I'm concerned with that I think will be obvious in this video, it would be the conditions. The dogs seem extremely stressed. And I know that during the hottest parts of the year, a day like today, that we have seen them outside. I don't know what the conditions are, but when you see the dogs react the way that you're going to in this video, it doesn't seem like a very calming place or a place that is under control. And I would like to add that the reason why they're barking in that situation, I have to assume, is because I'm standing in my yard and they can see me. So in all essence, I very rarely even go in my own backyard.
This video, is it at night?
Yes,
Are you on your deck?
that is correct.
Are you able to hear these dogs when you sleep?
Absolutely.
How is
Oftentimes
that?
have to sleep with the television on.
What's the latest that you've heard the dogs bark?
At any hour of the early morning, evening, it doesn't matter.
Are you able to use your back deck?
No, nor my guest bedroom, which is in the back left corner of the house.
Are you asking the court to order that there be some relief from this?
Absolutely.
That's all I have. Attended the witness.
You have questions?
Yes.
Actually, Your Honor, I'd like to mark all of these as videos before I
We worked in this exhibit.
If I'm driving, I've already given that to counsel. As a collective exhibit 1, please.
Right. You can do the last.
Mr. Johnson, I'll try to keep this brief. Are you currently employed?
I am.
Where are you employed?
I own Andrew Thompson Construction.
Okay. Do you primarily work in the office or at home?
I usually work out of my truck. I'm going in between job sites.
Okay, so not at home.
Not at home.
Okay.
I do have a home office there, really just for paperwork.
So typically, I mean, if you own a construction business, I imagine you're out and about quite a bit.
Yes.
And so how much time would you say that you spend at home during the day?
I usually leave by 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm usually home by 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night, but my wife works from home.
Okay. Let's see. Do other people in the neighborhood have dogs?
Sure.
Do those dogs bark?
Not to this extent.
But do they bark?
Well, they're dogs, so yeah, they bark.
Right, exactly. How often do those other dogs bark, or are you able to tell?
1% of the time of what we're dealing with this group.
Okay. When it comes to the complaints that have been made, has there been any inappropriate traffic or ingress and egress that has come to your knowledge as a result of, obviously the Thompsons, or the Hawkins are selling some of these dogs? Has there been any issues with the actual business side, if we could call it business?
Their business side?
Right. I mean, aside from obviously the noise is an issue for you, we're aware of that. But I mean, in terms of, are there a lot of cars over there? Like, I mean,
I don't pay any mind to what's happening at their house other than their dogs because of the quality of life issue.
Okay. And are you aware of a local company that I believe is in the Ridgely Estates area called Dede's Organics?
I am familiar with that.
And that is within the Ridgely Estates neighborhood, correct?
I'm not aware of that. You'd have to prove that to me. I'm not sure. I think that's at the end of Campervine, but I do not believe that to be in the subdivision. But again, I don't know for sure.
Okay. But as it relates to your knowledge of Dede's, you understand that they run a business, and do you have any issues with them running a business?
The extent I know of their business per se is that they drive by my house and they have a sign on the side of their vehicle. Other than that, I have no idea what they're doing.
Okay. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Nothing further for this
Thank you,
one.
Mr. Thompson. You may stand down and have a seat in the courtroom. Call your next witness.
Oh, Miss Angie Thompson.
Thompson, if you'll come around, please.
You are Miss Angela Thompson.
I am
Will you state your full name for the record?
actually Angelia
Angelia, okay.
Thompson.
And so you married to Mr. Andrew Thompson?
I am.
You live at the same residence?
Yes.
Can you tell this court how the barking that we've heard on these videos has affected your life?
Yes. I work. I have a job. Since COVID, I work from home. I have an office at home.
Just a little bit.
With my company. And I'm home all day, but I do need to sleep at night. These dogs kept me up for hours. They will bark at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and it goes on for hours. There have been many nights that I really haven't slept for 4 and 5 hours at a time because they're barking. I am home during the day working. I have actually had people on calls that I'm on through my laptop, through Microsoft Teams, who've been able to hear the dogs during the day because it doesn't stop at any certain point. It goes on throughout the day. So it's definitely impacted our life. When we have house guests, they often ask what's going on over there. We've had overnight guests in our guest room, which is at the back corner of our house, closest to their house, who have woken up during the night because of these barking dogs. So it does affect us and our children.
And you're asking the court to take some action today to restrain this activity while this case is pending?
Correct.
I'll tender the witness.
No question.
Cross-examined for you.
No question. No.
Thank you, ma'am. You may stand down. Mr. Potter, you may call your next witness.
Call Miss Susan Schreiber. Ms. Schreiber, can you state your full name for the court? Can you spell your last name?
Susan Schreiber, Schreiber.
Okay, Ms. Schreiber, do you also live in Ridgely Farms Estate?
I do.
And how far do you live from the Hawkins?
Well, I live 4 doors down from Angie, so I'm probably, maybe 3,000 feet or more?
Can you hear these dogs?
Yes.
Can you describe the noise?
Yeah, it's just constant barking, and you can hear them in the morning early. I'll take my dog out to go to the bathroom, usually about 6, and you can hear them. And then I'm retired, so I'm not there all day. But in the afternoons I am. And then at night I usually go to bed about 10, and you can hear them at 10 o'clock, 10:30, and then up sometimes 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning.
How have you accommodated the noise?
Well, I've tried to just, I'll sit up and read, and hopefully they're gonna quit so that I can go to sleep.
Have you had to try and muffle the noise?
Well, I try to stay in and then just keep the TV or the radio on because they do constantly bark.
Are you asking the court to enter an order to temporarily stop this noise while this case is pending?
Yes.
Tender the witness.
For you, you may cross-examine.
Ms. Schreiber, can you say your address again?
1232 Camp Ravine.
Okay. Would you say, I know we've been talking.
You need to come up to the
I'm
microphone
sorry.
to be able to hear you.
I apologize, Your Honor. Would you say, so we've been talking in terms of feet, would you say that you live probably about a half a mile away?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Okay. All right. And you say that you are retired?
Yes.
Okay. And so you said you're gone much of the day?
Well, I'm there every morning, and then I'll leave and come back right after lunch.
Okay. And you agree that there are nights that the dogs do not bark incessantly?
I didn't say they did not bark. Yeah, they bark all the time. But
So are you saying that there
but
are?
I get to the point, I'll sit up and read and hope they're going to quit, and then I'll eventually, go to sleep. So I mean, I don't know what time they stop.
Okay, but I'm asking, are you saying that there are no times at night or day that they don't bark?
Well, I'm not there usually from like 8 o'clock to noon, so I don't know what they do during that time.
Okay, so I guess going back to just the night, are there periods at night where they don't bark?
Usually when I finally go to sleep, I guess they're not barking. I don't know.
All right, that's all I have, Your Honor.
Redirect, Mr. Potter.
Nothing further.
Thank you, ma'am. You may stand down. Do you have any other witnesses?
I'd like to call Ms. Hawkins, please.
Hawkins, you'll need to come around for the witness stand, please.
Hello, ma'am. Could you state your full name for the record, please?
Marie Hawkins.
You pull up in front of that microphone as close as you can.
Sandra Marie Hawkins,
Do you own, what is the address of your property, ma'am?
502 Trinity Lane in Burns.
You live in the Ridgely Farms Estates?
Yes, Camp Ravine, yes.
Okay. Do you live there with anyone else?
My wife and children,
Okay. How many dogs do you have on your property?
13,
Okay. How many males?
3,
How many females?
10,
And what type of dogs are these?
labradoodles and poodles.
I take it from the pleadings that have been filed in this case that you do in fact operate a business. Is that true?
No, it is a hobby, it's not a business. A business, you make money. I don't make no money off of these dogs.
Tell me what you're doing with your dogs.
I breed them, and some of them, the puppies I give away for service dogs because they're very much needed, and some people cannot actually afford them. And other dogs from the same litter, I find them good homes, and those I do sell at a reasonable price.
So you have sold some of the dogs.
Yes, of course.
Do you have a business license for the dog business?
No,
Are you aware of the fact that there are restrictive covenants in the neighborhood?
no,
You're not aware of that?
no.
Do you know what restrictive covenants are?
Got restrictions on the land.
Did you? The council gave me a deed this morning. Is this a property that you bought from a Mr. Frank Musarino III?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna wait till I highlight this. First, let me ask you if this is a copy of your deed. We may be able to stipulate to that. Can we stipulate that that's her deed?
Yeah, that is the deed, Your Honor. Yes.
We've stipulated to the deed. Ms. Hawkins, there's a spot on the second page of the deed that I've marked with my ink pen just now. Can you read that for me?
It's covenants is subject to restrictions of record, volume 668, page 702, and volume 632, page 890, both in Registrar's Office of Dixon County, Tennessee.
Thank you. We could mark this warranty deed, please, as the next exhibit.
Exhibit 2.
Have you ever reviewed the restrictive covenants on your property?
No.
I could pass another group of documents to you. Do you recognize those social media postings, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
What are they?
Some of my puppies. That's my Facebook page and my puppies, some pictures from them.
And what do you refer to as the name of your business in those social media postings?
Living Oodles, Tennessee.
Loving Oodles?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and those, in fact, are your social media postings, correct?
Yes.
We could mark those collectively as the next exhibit.
Exhibit 3.
Are you breeding dogs on this property? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Are you breeding dogs that people bring you on the property?
No.
Do you agree with the testimony that you've heard about the barking?
I have had anonymous letters come to my house a couple times.
Of other people complaining,
It's the same person, I imagine.
but they're anonymous?
Yes, sir.
I have nothing further.
Do you have questions for your client?
I guess I could go ahead and get into direct examination if that's okay.
How do you want to handle it? She's here on the witness stand if you want to put on your proof.
Go ahead and do that, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Hawkins. Can you state your name or state your address for the record to the extent you already have done so?
502 Trinity Lane in Burns.
How long have you lived there?
For 4 years, I believe.
I believe the deed that we mentioned earlier was in 2018. Does that sound around the time that you bought it?
Yes, Valentine's Day.
Okay. So almost 5 years or
Yes.
5 years plus
5 years, yes.
coming up on 6. How long have you been breeding dogs on the property?
For about 4 years.
Okay. And are all of the dogs that are on the property, are those owned by you and your wife?
By me, yes.
Okay, by you. But you're not taking care of anybody else's dogs?
No.
And nobody is contacting you to breed their
People
particular?
have contacted me, but I don't allow it.
How do the dogs get along with each other?
They get along just fine. That's why they all play together.
Okay. So were they fighting or aggressive with each other?
No.
Okay. Are you currently employed?
Yes, I work 4 jobs.
Okay. Can you tell me what those jobs are?
I work at Vanderbilt. I work for Geodius Park.
What do you do at Vanderbilt?
I am a PSS.
And can you explain what that is?
I work on oncology department. I schedule the appointments for the needed appointments for the patients.
Okay. And you can go on with your other.
I work at Geodius Park. I also work at Bridgestone, and I work for Uber also.
Okay. So, but how, as in terms of percentage, you mentioned that this is a hobby for you as far as breeding dogs goes. As far as a percentage of what your employment or the regular business practice that you have, what percentage would you say this is of your economic income?
I would say I am in debt because of the dogs, because they are fully vaccinated. They go to the vet whenever needed. They have all their health testing done. As you can tell, I bought them a very nice building. It's air conditioned and got heater and everything. So like we're still paying on the buildings where the dogs is even at. So if anything, I'm in debt, trying to make them a better place.
Let's see. Obviously, you work a lot, it sounds like. Does your employment, either full-time or part-time, does that interfere with your ability to adequately care and provide for these dogs?
Not at all.
Okay. How often do they receive veterinary care?
Yearly when needed. I mean, they get their parvo shot every year, and their rabies is every 3 years. And of course, when they're puppies, every 3 weeks after the first vaccine.
Okay. It's obviously hot outside in Tennessee now. It'll likely get cold in the winter, as it tends to do. And you alluded to this, but do the dogs have adequate shelter?
Yes, sir. They have an inside building. They have 2 air conditioners, and they also have a heater and heat lamps.
Okay. And are they able to access that whenever they so choose?
Yes,
How often are the dogs fed?
every day.
Okay.
They have automatic feeders.
Okay. What, if any, research did you conduct prior to actually engaging in breeding in terms of what you needed in terms of potential permits or licenses, things like that?
Yes, I did send an email to the state of Tennessee asking for a license.
And did you speak with someone at the state of Tennessee?
They responded back and they told me I did not have.
And what was your impression of what was your understanding after you heard from them as far as what you needed in terms of any licenses or permits?
Object to the hearsay, Your Honor. I'm anticipating some hearsay, so I'm objecting to
Well,
what.
she's already stated that they told her she didn't need something, so I sustain the objection.
Is it your understanding that you need a permit or a license as it relates to what your current operation is? I say operation politely.
No,
Okay. And you feel like you did adequate due diligence to make that determination?
yes,
And did you say you spoke with someone at the state?
yes, through
Okay.
email.
Okay.
So that way I'd have it on paper if I ever needed it.
Okay. Based on the amount of selling that you do, is it your understanding that you need a business license?
No,
Okay. Let's see. Has animal control ever been called out or contacted? Have they ever contacted you?
no.
When was the first time you received any communications from the plaintiffs about how they felt about your dogs?
When I received that letter the first time from their lawyer.
Okay. So nobody contacted you?
Not beside the anonymous letter that I would get, and how am I supposed to talk with somebody if I don't know who they are?
Okay. We've seen some video footage regarding the dogs barking.
Mm-hmm.
Have you also recorded some video footage?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, if I may, And Sandra, is this the beginning of one of those videos?
Yes, sir.
And it's a little grainy, but can you describe to me what exactly that is an image of?
Is the microphone on the council's table operating?
Test. There we go. I'm sorry, Ms. Hawkins, can you describe what that image is?
That's my service dog.
Okay, so that is your phone and this is a video that you took.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'm not going to take too much time with this, but I do want to at least introduce a couple of these videos just in response to what has been played, but I want to be sensitive to the court's time. Ms. Hawkins, do you recall what is going to occur in this video?
Yes, I have my daughter going outside intentionally to make the dogs bark.
In this video, we are intentionally going to make the dogs bark so you can hear the difference of how loud they sound indoors versus outdoors. I'm sending my daughter over there to make them bark on purpose. As you can tell, the dogs are indoors right now. That is outdoors. This is outdoors in my kitchen.
Ms. Hawkins, that is your home. I think you just said it in the video that that is your kitchen. Is that what you said?
Yes, it's the spare kitchen,
Okay.
dining room.
And to your knowledge, is your home closer to the place where the dog is kept than those of the plaintiffs?
Much closer.
Is this another video that appears to be the same phone that was shown earlier?
Yes, sir.
And if you could just describe what's going on in this video.
It's a video just as proof that the dogs do not bark at all times.
And do you recall approximately what time of evening this was taken?
I believe this was around 8 o'clock in the evening.
Okay. And I'll just state that, I mean, this is, well, you're familiar with the video. Is there any, throughout the course of this video, is there any dog barking at any time?
No, sir.
I don't want to waste anybody else's time. The video is approximately 4 minutes long. Your Honor, I believe that's all I have.
You have any other question for him? Mr.
No questions.
All right, Mr. Potter, you may redirect.
Ms. Hawkins, how many animals have you sold this year?
Truthfully, maybe 10. 1 litter.
I'm sorry, would you,
About 10, 1 litter.
about 10?
Yeah, 10 pups.
Keep an accurate record of all the animals you sell?
A record, yes.
And what do you sell a puppy for?
400.
All right, my bullshit meter just like went off the charts. Most of us know what a doodle cost. When you put doodle at the end of the name, it like automatically tacks $500 on the price, not to mention what the doodle was, mixed with. So there's no way she's selling these for $400. So of course, quick Google, and she is all over the internet in breeder websites. And if you're just selling as a hobby, you're not all over breeder websites. You're putting a post here or there on Facebook, not like plastered all over the internet. Additionally, I found 2 listings for her puppies for sale, 4, 5, and 600. And these are recent ones, which she probably got told not to put anything outrageous on there by her lawyer, obviously. But there was a past one for 800 because, the internet never forgets.
Do you have a breeder's license?
No.
Your Honor, did I previously, I think I did, mark as an exhibit the Facebook pages, the social media? I did. Okay, thank you.
Never marked as an exhibit.
And Your Honor, I'd like to mark those collective exhibit, those videos.
All right, well, you have a thumb drive.
I will get, I should be able to get one after this. I had some tech issues.
We'll show a late filed exhibit. It'll be number 4.
Counsel, I'm passing to her the letter that was sent to your office. Passing you a letter that's dated, I think, April 18. Do you recall receiving that letter?
Yes, sir.
And that letter makes allegations that you're in violation of restrictive covenants in your neighborhood, among other things. Is that right?
Yes, that's what it says.
After you received the letter, did you bother to go look at your restrictive covenants in your neighborhood? Did you read them?
I read into what I thought I should have read into, yes.
Okay. Have you seen the restrictive covenants before now?
Just what you showed me a while ago.
Okay. And I think we have a stipulation that what I've passed to the witness are in fact the restrictive covenants for Ridge Leah Farms Estates Section E restrictions. Is that correct, counsel?
Yes.
So we've stipulated that those are your restrictive covenants on your property. Have you read those, ma'am? You have not?
No.
Okay, can we look, I'm gonna look at a couple of those with you, is that okay? Can you read restrictive covenant number 1 for me, please?
This property shall be used for residential purpose only, and no lot shall be subdivided, and no more than one residence may be on any lot. No duplexes or multifamily units are permitted.
Specifically, I'm making reference to shall be used for residential purposes only. Did you read that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at residential restriction number 12. See that, number 12? Can you read that for me out loud?
No animals other than pet cats and dogs are allowed. All dogs and cats are to be confined to owner's lot and not to interfere with the peace and enjoyment of neighbors.
Not to interfere with the peace and enjoyment of neighbors. Did you read that?
Yeah.
You look at residential restriction number 20, please. Could you read that for me?
No commercial business would be housed or operated either permanent or temporary, excluding developer operating sales and construction office.
Thank you, ma'am. If we could mark the restrictions that she just read, that 2-page document as the next exhibit, please.
Exhibit 5.
I have no more questions.
Anything further?
All right. Can we stipulate to the fact that this is zoned agricultural one, that her property is zoned agricultural one?
I'll call Mr. Darnell.
Oh, okay. All right, good deal. No further questions?
Let me ask a couple of questions. I noticed you have a dog with you. Is this dog serving a purpose for you today?
She is my medical alert service dog.
All right, and what sort of medical problems do you have that you would require a service dog?
Vestibular migraines.
All right. I know you're wearing sunglasses. That your vision is okay. I understood you to say you were driving Uber.
Yes, these are prescription glasses.
All right.
The bright light gives me headaches.
But this dog is a service dog that you have with you?
Yes, sir.
All right. If I'm understanding correctly, when you purchased this property, whatever year it was, 2018 or whatever, and you went to the closing and you saw the deed that was granted that referred to these restrictive covenants, did you ever bother to look at those covenants or to ask what those meant?
We were told as long as we had more than 5 acres, we were able to breed dogs on the property.
And who told you that?
The person that was selling the house.
The person selling the house?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And how much land do you have?
5.22 acres.
All right, thank you.
All right, if
You
I
got a
may,
question?
one follow-up question.
Before you ask the question, I wanted to mark as an exhibit the letter, April 18, 2023, that I asked Ms. Hawkins
I
about.
marked that as Exhibit 6.
Thank you.
Ms. Hawkins, you mentioned that you had migraines.
Yes, sir.
Does that make you susceptible and sensitive to loud noises?
Very much.
But you have no issues with your current living quarters and your current property with the dogs and how much they bark?
None.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You may step down and have a seat by your lawyer.
So this is why I never get anything done, because I always have to go and Google something and try and figure out the answer to it. So I was wondering, how far away could she possibly be from other people's houses? So this is an aerial footage. You can see the little pin is her house, and then the circle-y thing is around the dog kennel. So the dog kennel is by far closest to her house than anybody else's. So she should definitely be hearing it the most. But there are open fields around her house, so sound obviously is going to travel. That's a tough one. I mean, if she has migraines and the dogs are barking like that all the time, that should definitely have an impact on her, and she should want to do something about it. But I don't know. That's a tough one.
I have no further questions. And I'd like to call Mr. David Darnell. Mr. Darnell, could you state your full name and spell your last name for the court reporter?
My name is David Darnell. It's spelled Darnell.
What is your position, Mr. Darnell?
I am the Director of Planning and Zoning for Dixon County.
And are you familiar with the parcel of property that we have been discussing today in this hearing?
Yes,
Have you had an opportunity to take a look at the records regarding this parcel of property?
yes, I have.
Okay. What is the current zoning for this property?
It is zoned A1 agricultural with residential building.
Okay. And so are there certain things that are allowed under A1 residential?
Yes,
Okay. Is dog kenneling allowed under A1 residential?
it is allowed as a special exception if you have 5 acres, and it has to be approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Okay. Now, as full disclosure, under A1 residential, there's also something called animal husbandry. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Is there a definition given for animal husbandry?
No, there's not.
Is animal husbandry something that's allowed under A1 residential?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And is there a definition for kenneling under A1 residential?
Not so much a definition. We usually consider that 5 animals or more that are being boarded at a residence.
And you've heard testimony in this case that we have more than that, is that right?
Yes.
Now, in addition to zoning ordinances, can a property be subject to residential restrictive covenants?
Yes, it can.
Is this property subject to residential restrictive covenants?
Yes, it is.
And you heard us mark earlier the residential restrictive covenants in this case. Madam Clerk, could you hand back to Mr. Darnell the restrictive covenants that were marked as an exhibit, please? Clerk has handed you a document. Are those in fact a copy of the residential restrictive covenants in this subdivision?
Yes, it is.
Are those typically enforced by the county?
No, the county has no authority to enforce them.
How are they enforced?
They can be enforced either by the developer that put them in place, homeowners association, or the surrounding neighbors.
Okay. I have no more questions for Mr. Darnell.
Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. If I could use the screen as well.
Go ahead.
Again. Mr. Allen, good morning. I'm Jordan Purrier. Are you in agreement that this is a copy of the Dixon County zoning ordinance?
Yes, it is.
And are you familiar with the terms and definitions?
For the most part, yes.
And we spoke about a kennel. Let's see, I'm going to try to make this to where you can read it. Are you able to read that adequately?
Any premises except were accessory to an agriculture use were from or more which domestic animals such as dogs and cats not owned by the occupant on the premises are kept, boarded, bred, or trained for commercial purposes.
So do you agree that the definition of a kennel requires that the dogs on a particular premises must be owned by somebody other than the owner of the premises?
That is correct, yes.
And I want to make sure, because when we say this is zoned A1, because I think the term was mentioned A1 residential, but this is A1. I do not see, let's see, I don't see an A1 residential district. I do see an A1 agricultural district. When we say A1, we are talking about the agricultural
It's
district.
A1 agricultural, which allows residential building.
Use is permitted. You agree that animal husbandry is a use permitted, does not require a special exception. It is expressly
Correct,
permitted.
yes.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Darnell. You may stand down. You are released from your subpoena. You may call your next witness.
That's our proof, Judge.
Plaintiff has rested their proof. Mr. Purrier, do you wish to put on any additional proof?
Your Honor, I rest as well.
All right, I'll hear your argument.
We're asking for a temporary restraining order. We're asking Your Honor to enter an order that immediately obligates the Hawkins to abate this business and either move these dogs or replace the dogs or sell the dogs. I don't know how they're going to do it, but we would ask that you reasonably order that to give them 30 days to do it. I think that's, we're trying to be as reasonable as possible. More importantly, when we filed this verified petition, I did not come into court and seek an ex parte order because I wanted her to have an opportunity to be heard on this, and that's why we set it for hearing. But you've heard testimony enough today to determine a couple of things. Number one, you've heard testimony that there's a substantial likelihood of success on the merits under Rule 65. Specifically, we've heard testimony that there is a business. She can call it a hobby, but it is a business being operated from that property. In fact, she's testified that she has sold 10 dogs this year at $400 a piece. She has testified that she's advertised as a business by virtue of the collective exhibit of Facebook advertising that's been admitted to the court, and she's doing this without a business license or a breeder's license. Number two, we know that they're in violation based on the proof of recorded subdivision restrictive covenants, namely numbers 1, 12, and 20. These animals are violating the quiet enjoyment of the neighbors. That's uncontroverted from the testimony of the Thompsons and Ms. Schreiber. Also, the property that Ms. Hawkins and her spouse reside in is not being used exclusively for residential purposes. They're doing it for commercial purposes. And we're asking that Your Honor find that there's a substantial likelihood of success that will prove that there are violations of the restrictive covenants. So respectfully, Your Honor, we are asking that a temporary restraining order be entered. As Your Honor knows, the docket in the 23rd Judicial District, once we have discovery in this case, if there's additional proof, additional discovery, there could be written discovery, there could be depositions. We may not get a final hearing in this case for many months. And the Thompsons and Ms. Schreiber have testified that the barking is at all hours of the day. Now, no doubt, common sense will tell us that there was probably some intermittent times when the dogs aren't barking. They have to sleep as well, I assume, but it is a disturbance. And this is a residential neighborhood that has certain conditions. These parties being deprived of the quiet enjoyment of their property is irreparable harm. That's irreparable harm. That's time that they cannot get back. And you've heard testimonies from Miss Angie Sanders that it was happening at late in the night. They have difficulty sleeping. They can't entertain. They can't enjoy their backyard. So we think we've proven this case sufficiently, and we're asking for the relief requested. Thank you.
Spurrier?
There are just a couple of things in immediate response to Plaintiff's counsel. There has been no proof that has been put on regarding the Hawkins needing to have a license or a permit of any kind from any governmental entity as it relates to what they're doing on their property. What they're doing on their property, as we heard from Mr. Darnell, is expressly allowed, while obviously the County zoning ordinance does not specifically define animal husbandry. I did find that in Tennessee Code Annotated 44-2-101, which is the title of the statute is animals and animal husbandry. The definition of animals means all domestic animals, excuse me, including but not limited to cattle, bison, sheep, goats, swine, dogs, etc. Husbandry is not necessarily defined in the TCA, but Merriam-Webster defines husbandry as the cultivation or production of plants or animals, or the scientific control and management of a branch of farming, and especially domestic animals. Your Honor, this is clearly allowed by the Dixon County zoning ordinance at this case, or at this time. Going back to the threat of irreparable harm, again, I would like to quote from Caldwell v. Knox, which is, again, it's 391 Southwest 2D. It's noted in our response, with respect to noise in particular, no person is entitled to absolute quiet and enjoyment of his or her property. Rather, a person may insist only upon the degree of quietness consistent with the locality in which he or she dwells or conducts business. And among the relevant circumstances to consider whether a noise constitutes a nuisance is the relevant circumstances of the locality, nature of the use, the extent and frequency of the injury. Your Honor, I appreciate the video proof that the plaintiffs put on today, but we had just as much proof as they did, if not longer in time. I believe there were 7 to 8 videos. By my calculations, the collective timing of the videos during the day was less than a minute and a half, and that at night was around 53 seconds. Your Honor, we had at least 4 minutes of uninterrupted time, and She also testified to the fact that these dogs don't bark all through the night. We showed all those videos that the plaintiffs put on were taken during the day or taken outside. We showed the difference between going inside versus going outside, and that's at the home where the dogs are located with a person who has sensitivity to noise. Your Honor, I just cannot say there is immediate and irreparable harm when we have the testimony of 3 individuals from the neighborhood that would justify an injunction. Your Honor, that's all I have. We respectfully request that the motion for the TRO be denied.
Well, when considering a restraining order, it is, or an injunction, it is necessary for the court to find that there will be, in the form of immediate and irreparable harm and injury. In this case, unlike some others, video evidence has been presented. This is an area that the court is familiar with. I've been out in that area many times over the years. I'm familiar with the location. We can talk about it being a country or out in the country or whatever, but it's actually a neighborhood. It's a neighborhood full of homes that are nice homes. It is a neighborhood that is subject to residential restrictions or covenants that obviously Ms. Hawkins and her partner could have reviewed in detail if they had chose to do so when they purchased the property. So this motion today is asking the court to do 2 things. One, to find that the conduct of Ms. Hawkins's property, the way she is utilizing her property with these dogs, is in fact in violation of the zoning, but it's also in violation of restrictive covenants. But more importantly, it interferes with the peaceful use and enjoyment of the property that belongs to the other folks. I am certain that anyone could go out and in that neighborhood sit outside and record the peace and quiet that exists occasionally. So the fact that the defendant has brought in video evidence that shows that there is no barking for a particular period of time is not persuasive to the court. Neither do I find it persuasive that a video exists that you have dogs barking. Looking at the photographs, it appears that this kennel area is behind her house. So the fact that she steps inside her house and can't hear the dogs barking is not persuasive to the court. What that means is that everyone who lives around her in the neighborhood must stay inside their house. They can't utilize their deck, they can't utilize their yard, or else they, it would be impossible for them to do so with what I observed today. Yes, it is true that when you look at the noise, that no one is entitled to absolute quiet. I live in the middle of a 100-acre farm and I hear dogs barking from the distance. That is quite different than what we observed in court today. And in my opinion, what I heard today from the Thompsons and the video evidence of that is an intolerable situation. I find that it does meet the criteria under the existing case law, that it's more than just mere occasional interference with their enjoyment. The testimony has been that it occurs during the night and that it occurs during the day. They can enjoy their outside deck, they can enjoy their yard, and that does meet the level of proof that rises to the level of a noise nuisance that rises to the level that the court must take action. In addition to that, clearly the restrictions that are set forth that govern this property are enforceable by the Thompsons and the Schreiders. It clearly says that the property shall be used for residential purposes only. Whether we call it a business or not, it is being used for commercial property, for commercial businesses. When she is selling 10 dogs at $400 a piece, that's $4,000 in this year that she's made off of it. That's not a full-time business, but it is a business venture. It is making an income off of it. Number 12, no animals other than pet cats and dogs are allowed. All dogs and cats are to be confined to the owner's lot and not to interfere with the peace and enjoyment of the neighbors. That provision alone requires the court to take action, because clearly those animals, and I love dogs. I have dogs. I have a dog that I think the world of. But if my dog was interfering with someone's peace and enjoyment to the extent these are, I would take the action necessary to stop that. And so for that reason, I find that the plaintiff has in fact met the burden of proof. And I find that there is a basis for the entry of an injunction in this case. It requires a temporary restraining order or an injunction. Both are provided for under Rule 65. And within the next 30 days, the defendant will bring their property into compliance with the restrictive covenants of the area and the property to which they belong. Now, you can always take those 15 or 13 or 14 dogs inside her house and take them out individually so that it doesn't interfere. If that's her choice, she can have the dogs. I'm not saying she can't own them. She just can't let them out in the yard where they interfere with the other people's peace and enjoyment. So if she wants to keep them kenneled inside and individually take them outside so that she continues to maintain the dogs, that's up to her. But she cannot allow them in the backyard, from what I observed, and the noise that interferes both day and night with their neighborhood. And as a result of that, she'll have to take whatever action is necessary to abate the noise nuisance that's coming from those properties. And however she handles it, Mr. Potter, I assume we'll have some issue that may arise whether or not that's being done correctly, but the court orders that the dogs either be sold, transferred, or kept to where they no longer present the type of nuisance that has been demonstrated to the court. Mr. Potter will draw that order. Thank you, Judge. And with the findings of the court, we are now taking a recess for lunch until 1:30.
And that brings us to last week, when the neighbors were back in front of Judge Wolf with more complaints that all of those orders hadn't been addressed. Properly, at least.
Thank you for that. Please, the court, Your Honor, I do represent a number of plaintiffs. They are residents in the Camp Ravine Road area. Your Honor heard testimony in this case on August the 24th, 2023. The respondents, Ms. Deborah Hawkins and Ms. Sandra Marie Hawkins, are the owners of numerous dogs. There was testimony at the previous hearing by Mrs. Hawkins, one of the ladies who were respondents, that there were between 12 and 15 dogs on the property. Your Honor made findings at that time that they are in violation of subdivision restrictive covenants that prevent commercial activity on the property, as well as dogs in excess of 2 dogs for pets. There was testimony that they were having a breeding operation on the property. We heard testimony from the county codes director, Mr. Darnell, who advised that they have never applied for a special exception to be properly zoned for that activity on the property. You heard some testimony from the residents about the breach of the covenant of quiet enjoyment and the barking that was taking place at all times of the day. And Your Honor issued a ruling that gave them 30 days to take corrective action. And I'm paraphrasing, but Your Honor said, I don't really know or care what you do with the dogs, but you can't have the dogs on the property. You're gonna either have to get rid of the dogs or bring them inside or something, because it's causing a disturbance to the neighbors. We filed this motion for contempt on October the 23rd, more than 30 days after the time for them to comply, alleging that they have breached that order, violated that order. They have not complied. As an officer of the court, I submit that I've had conversations with counsel who advised that there were approximately 15 adult dogs on the property. The representation that's been made to me is that there are now 3 adult dogs on the property, that they've gotten rid of 12 adult dogs. But I was also told that there were approximately 30 puppies on the property. And at the time of our conversation, the representation was made to me that they had gotten rid of all the puppies except for 12 puppies on the property. And I'm told that the definition of a puppy, or at least the way they construe a puppy, is a dog that's 2 years or less in age. That's a pretty good sized dog, can be. And so that means that at the time that Your Honor entered this order, there were about 45 dogs on this property. I don't know how many dogs are on the property now, but I guess we'll hear some testimony, and Your Honor will have to assess the credibility of the witnesses. But there's still way too many dogs on this property. And I have subpoenaed the animal control officer, who will testify that he made a visit to the property within the last month. And at that time, he believed there to be approximately 30 dogs still on the property. And so you'll hear that testimony in this hearing. I don't know what the adequate solution to this is. It's a difficult decision for the court, but our clients are entitled to have these rules enforced. I have filed a motion for contempt, asking that the respondents be held in criminal contempt. I've given notice of that. I think Your Honor has the right to do that. I also think that Your Honor could hold them in civil contempt by giving them a deadline to do certain things, and then having them purge their contempt if they do it by a certain deadline. In addition to that, I filed a motion with the court asking the court to order that the dogs be confiscated by animal control, which Your Honor has the right to do. It's not fair. It's also not fair to these animals that are being unfairly housed and pinned on this property for this breeding business to occur. And so we have testimony. We have a number of residents, some of whom are not even plaintiffs of this, petitioners in this case, who live next door to these persons, who are willing to come here today and testify about what they've seen and heard. We'll be as expeditious about it as possible. I heard what counsel said in opening statement about they take the position that they have abated this problem and they have addressed it. So I'm very interested in hearing what the Hawkins tell the court under oath about what they've actually done. We don't have any ill will towards these people. My clients don't have any ill will towards these people. And they've expressed that to me multiple times. They simply want to be able to enjoy their subdivision rights without noise disturbance. Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor. Desiree Goff, representing the defendants, Sandra and Deborah Hawkins, Your Honor. Ms. Deborah and Ms. Sandra Hawkins are both present in the court today, Your Honor. Your Honor, going back to the order that was entered on September 19, 2023, Hawkins take that very seriously, Your Honor. They have done everything possible to abide by and comply with this court order. The defendants have abated the noise in accordance with the court's instructions. The court did not specify a manner in which to dispose of the animals. The defendants have done everything humane in finding these animals homes. There will be testimony that the defendants have flown a dog to Alaska. The defendants have driven the dogs throughout the Southeast to find them homes, Your Honor. There are the only remaining animals, testimony will show, are personal pets of the defendants. Your Honor, the Regalia Farms Estates restrictions that the order requested compliance with does not provide a limit on the number of dogs or cats, which may be pets, Your Honor, and the only remaining animals on the resident's property are personal pets. There is no breeding business, Your Honor. It's defendants' position that they have done everything they are able to do to be in compliance with this court order entered on September 19, 2023. They've abated the noise as demonstrated by reducing the number of animals on the property. They only keep a limited number of pets on the property, which they also are prepared to testify to that they keep indoors in accordance with the court's order entered on September 19, 2023, Your Honor. Further, as stated by Tennessee courts in Caldwell versus Knox Concrete Products, 391 Southwest 2D at 910, with respect to noise in particular, no person is entitled to the absolute quiet enjoyment of his or her property. Neighboring landowners have animals, neighboring landowners have dogs. Your Honor, my clients are just requesting the same benefit of this land as their neighbors have, so they are able to have pets. They are demonstrating compliance with these restrictions, and they are requesting that this court find that they do not meet the necessary element of proof of willfulness for them to be found in either criminal or civil contempt. Criminal contempt has a higher burden of proof than civil. However, they do not meet either, Your Honor. And these individuals are not in violation of any city, county, or state code. And Your Honor, they are requesting that this motion be not denied. Furthermore, Your Honor, the request to hold them in criminal contempt would not solve any stated problem by plaintiffs. Placing the defendants in jail will not enable them to render any less barking on their property, Your Honor. They have already resolved this, and we request the court find so. In further regard to the motion for animal control to seize these animals, if we are addressing that in conjunction with the motion for contempt, we would request the court find that there is no jurisdiction, as no city, county, or state code has been violated, and the defendants are prepared to testify to the care that they have provided these animals and that it is more than adequate, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
The only question I have, Mr. Potter, is that my belief is that you cannot try both civil and criminal contempt in the same proceedings. It must be bifurcated because of the nature of the two. So do you elect to proceed on civil contempt, or do you want to proceed on criminal contempt only?
I'll elect on civil contempt, Your Honor.
We are only proceeding on civil contempt because of the different nature, the dual nature of those charges, as you pointed out. And my understanding of the current state of the law is that I cannot have a hearing on both criminal contempt and civil contempt. So, all right.
Thank you, Your Honor. And in regarding civil contempt, it is defendant's position as well that there are four elements of proof, Your Honor. There must be a lawful order. Second, the order alleged to have been violated must be clear, specific, and unambiguous. Third, the person to have violated the order must have actually disobeyed or otherwise resisted. And fourth, the person's violation of the order must be willful. That's citing Convalika versus Chattanooga Hamilton County Hospital Authority, Tennessee, 2008, Your Honor. And it is defendant's position that they have done everything possible. They are ready to put on proof of all they have done to be in compliance with the court order, and plaintiffs cannot prove the necessary willful element, Your Honor. Thank you.
For the record, I will state that when we had the hearing before, it was this court's finding that there was particularly a noise issue that operated in the with the operation of this breeding business that the court found there was proof of, and that there was, in my opinion, sufficient noise that it created a nuisance for the neighbors. So my order was an attempt to grant the respondents an opportunity to bring themselves into compliance with the Ridgelia Farms Estates restrictions, and I tried to tailor it in a way to not be too restrictive. So we'll see whether or not there's been compliance with that order, and if that has not been done, then we'll deal with it accordingly, or I will make another order that will be more specific than any of that. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Bobby, you call you first one?
Yeah, I'm going to call Animal Control Officer Swaw. Since he's here, we'll get him out of here. Let's turn be sworn.
Step right up, please.
State your name, please, for the record, sir.
Austin Swall,
And what is your position, Mr. Swan?
Animal Control Officer.
Pull that microphone toward you, Officer Swan. Just, yeah, there you go.
Officer Swan, how long have you been the animal control officer in
About
Dixon County?
Around 3 years.
And you work for the Dixon County Sheriff's Department?
Yes.
Okay. And were you recently called to a complaint, to respond to a complaint regarding a noise or animal complaint at the Hawkins residence in Burns, Tennessee?
Yes, on November 28th.
Okay, November the 28th.
Yes.
Is that approximately a week ago, more or less?
Yes.
Okay. Who made that call to you?
I received it from the sheriff. He got the call from, I'm not exactly sure.
Was it a resident who made the complaint?
Yes.
Okay. And the address you responded to, was it 502 Trinity Lane in Burns?
Yes.
Did you interact at that time with any of the property owners at 502 Trinity Lane?
I did not.
Okay. What did you observe, sir?
I just walked around the property and looked at the welfare of all the animals.
Okay. And were you primarily concerned at that point in time about the welfare of the animals?
I was not. All the animals, according to our codes, they were abiding by the codes. They all had food, shelter, and water. All of them looked healthy to me.
How many animals did you observe?
Approximately between 25 to 30.
And were they kept in a pen outside of the house?
They were, but the pens were covered by all four sides. That's abiding by the law.
What do you mean covered by all four sides?
They have to have adequate shelter where they can get out of the weather. And not all four sides, I apologize, it's all three sides where the wind cannot get into them.
I see. So based on your investigation, did you observe any danger to the dogs?
I did not.
Okay. But you did observe 25 to 30 dogs?
I did.
Okay. Do you know what breed of dogs they were?
Poodles and some mixed breeds. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay. Tell me how large this pen was that you observed?
The pens, they kind of varied. Some were like the normal kennel size, like 12 by 12s, and then some were probably about the length of the little podium back there.
Okay, so more than one pen?
Yes.
Okay. And were the pens on the same side of the house?
No.
Okay. Where were they positioned around this home?
So they had dogs on the far left-hand side, far right-hand side, and they had some in the back of their house, underneath their back porch.
Okay. Did you cite anyone for any violations?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you speak to the homeowners?
Did not. Well, I did over the phone.
Okay.
And basically told them that
Who did you speak with?
the defendant.
Okay.
Objection, Your Honor.
You know-
Hearsay.
I'm sorry?
Hearsay.
You are objecting to the conversation. Who did you talk to?
The defendant.
It wouldn't be hearsay, it would be an admission of a party opponent. So
Thank you, Your Honor.
overruled.
What was discussed?
I talked to her over the phone and explained to her that her animals, according to my law, are in abidance to the law, that there's no concern on my end.
In doing your investigation, did you observe any restrictive covenants in the subdivision?
I did not. We don't enforce that.
Okay. And do you enforce zoning violations?
I do not.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I'll tender witness.
Few questions.
I'm sorry, Officer Swall, if you have a seat, we have questions from the other side.
Good morning, Mr. Swab.
Good morning.
I'm Ms. Goff. I represent the defendants, Your Honor. We have a few questions for Mr. Swab. You previously testified that you considered the animals to be well cared for, is that correct?
Yes,
Of healthy weight,
yes,
their coats appeared healthy, clean,
yes,
they had appropriate shelter, food and water.
yes.
Did you notice air conditioning and heating units in the shelters?
I did not, I wasn't able to witness that myself. I was told that it has by the defendant.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
For the court. Mr. Swa, I just handed you some photographs. Looking at these, do you recognize the photographs of, from your visit to the property?
I do.
Do these look like the shelters that you observed when you visited the property?
Yes,
Your Honor, would like to admit these as exhibit number 1. Based on your understanding of fair treatment for animals, do you consider these to be adequate shelters?
yes,
Thank you. These animals were reasonably contained within the premises of the private property at all times of your observation, is that right?
yes.
You did not witness anything in violation of any code, ordinance, or regulation?
I did not.
From your observations, was there a problem with the noise level?
We don't enforce noise in the county.
Where do you enforce noise?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. And so then their only purpose for being there was to ensure the standard care of the dogs and their well-being?
Yes,
And absent violation of city code, county, or state, you do not have any jurisdiction to seize any animals, correct?
as of right now, no.
Right. Thank you very much.
Holly, you have any other questions?
No further questions.
Thank you. Now you can go, Officer Swan.
Thank you, Officer Swat, for being here. Oh, Miss McGill, is it Leslie McGill? Yes. Okay, Miss Leslie McGill. Miss Gill will be sworn. Ma'am, will you tell the court who you are?
My name is Leslie McGill,
Okay. Where do you reside, Miss McGill?
504 Trinity Lane, Burns, Tennessee,
Where is your home in relation to the respondent's home, the Hawkins?
next door.
Okay. And are you a party to this lawsuit?
No,
Okay. And how did I come to know who you were in this case?
I think the commissioner got in touch with the sheriff, and I don't know if she talked to you or not, but
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
it,
It's not being offered for the truth, but we're just fine. Who contacted whom? I'll rephrase.
Overrule the objection simply because of the fact that it's not being offered for the truth of what's said in the statement at this point, but rather why certain actions were taken, so overrule.
Let me rephrase it. Did you make a complaint to your county commissioner?
yes.
Okay, who's your county commissioner?
Cindy Gray, I think her name is.
To your knowledge, did Ms. Gray learn about this lawsuit?
She told me there was something going on that she wasn't quite sure what was happening, but she was going to check at the meeting. They had a meeting that night.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Again, it doesn't appear to me that it's being offered to prove what she said is true, but rather why certain things were taken, why certain things were done. Overrule the objection.
After you complained to your commissioner, did you receive a phone call from me?
Yes,
And you agreed to come here today voluntarily to testify?
yes,
Okay. Did you make a complaint about noise?
yes.
To whom did you complain?
I complained basically to Cindy about it, and that's how it got started, but I had complained previously to the animal control.
When you say Cindy, is that Miss Cindy Gray, your county commissioner?
Yes,
Did you also complain to animal control?
yes.
Or when did you make a complaint to animal control?
It was about 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
or 3 weeks, maybe 3 weeks ago.
Who resides with you at your property?
My daughter.
And can you tell me about your daughter? Does she have any health problems?
Yes, she does. She's disabled currently. She has severe health problems right now.
Okay.
She's had 2 major surgeries in the past 4 or 5 months.
And is she convalescing at your home?
Yes.
Would you please just use this opportunity to tell the court what your complaint is?
My complaint is the noise from the dogs. It's incessant barking. It has been incessant. I've lived there about a year, and we've heard this nonstop for about a year. And I wanted to move my daughter to the back bedroom because it's a larger room. She has she has a wheelchair and she has a walker and things like that. And I was hesitant because I knew she couldn't get any rest back there because my bedroom's on the back side of the house and I don't get any rest. So I eventually told her, I said, I'm going to have to move you because we've got to get you in a bigger space. So I did move her, but she keeps a fan running to kind of drown out the noise. And I couldn't do that because I have to listen to see if she calls for me. And so I was not getting any rest. That's why I called.
How loud is the noise?
Well, in my bedroom, you can hear them. It's just like they're like in my backyard.
Does it interfere with your sleep?
Of course, yes.
Does it interfere with your enjoyment of your home?
Yes.
Does it interfere with your daughter's recovery?
Yes.
And have you moved her to another area in the home?
I did. I'd moved her.
And did I hear you say that you were using a fan to help drown out some of the noise?
Yes.
And you're running that fan to help muffle the noise?
Yes.
What steps, if any, have you taken to try and prevent and remedy this?
Well, I haven't. I didn't want to call because I don't want to be, a bad neighbor. But I was told when we moved in there that I think it was Sandra told me the day I met her that she was going to be getting rid of the dogs. So I thought she was going to get rid of them and I wasn't going to have any issues. But that didn't happen.
How many dogs are there?
Lately, I've seen 6 adult dogs on the deck. And then yesterday, a friend of mine he's my ex-husband, he comes in to help me sometimes. He was walking and he saw the puppies on the side. I don't know how many there were, but there were some puppies.
Are there more than one kennel at the property?
Yes.
Is that a recent development where the kennels have been moved around the property?
I don't think so. I think they've been there.
So that's not something that's happened in the last couple of months, to your knowledge?
No.
There's more than, how many cages, I call them cages or kennels, what do you want to call them, are around this home?
I think there's like 3 maybe.
Are you good with directions? Do you know what side of their house your home is on? Is it north, south, east, or west?
I would say west.
Okay.
But I'm not good with directions.
Would you like the court to take some action to remedy this noise problem?
Yes. There's also an issue, there's also an issue with flies. I mean, you can't even open the door without flies.
Question, Your Honor, speculative as to whether or not the fly's presence is due to any number of reasons on this agriculturally zoned land.
He's testifying as to, Mr. Potter, you want to make a response to that?
I think she just said there's a problem with flies. I mean, the court can take that for what it's worth.
I agree. Overrule the objection. She's just testifying that there is a problem with flies. The court will draw its own conclusions. So.
I'll tender the witness. Thanks, Ms. McGill. The other lawyer may have some questions for you.
Cross-examine.
Ms. McGill, thank you for coming in today.
You're welcome.
Ms. McGill, you mentioned that lately you've only seen 6 adult dogs on the deck. Is that correct?
Correct.
And have you lately noticed a decrease in noise?
Yes.
Thank you. No more questions, Your Honor.
Anything further, Mr. Potter? Ma'am, you may step down. Thank you. I'm going to call your next witness.
Your Honor, we'll call Ms. Pam Duchesne.
You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, all the truth, and nothing but the truth.
Hello, ma'am. Will you please state your name and would you please spell your last name for the court?
Pam Duchesne, Douchane.
Ms. Duchesne, you actually are one of the petitioners in this case, is that true?
That is.
Where is your house situated in relation to the Hawkins home?
I'm directly behind them.
Okay.
I'm on Camp Ravine. I'm not on Trinity, so I'm directly behind them.
Okay. Your home, it would be on the same street as the Thompsons' home.
That is correct.
You're a party to this lawsuit because I assume that you have a complaint to make. Will you use this opportunity to tell the court what the issue is?
Same as Ms. McGill.
Speak up just a little bit, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
You can pull the base of that microphone towards you so you don't have to be right up against it. There you go.
Thank you. It's the noise. I can't even enjoy my deck outside my pool. We've been in the pool and my granddaughter, the dog started barking and it scared her. She went into, crying fit while we were in the pool. And I just, the noise, and again, I will attest to the fly issue too.
Is the noise loud enough for you to hear inside your home?
Yes. I can definitely tell you when they're feeding
Can
when they're going down to the pens.
you give the court some indication about what time of day you hear this noise?
So I work a lot, so I'm not always in the house during the day, so I can't tell you during the day, but in the morning, it's definitely early, 5:30 or 6. I can tell something's going on. The dogs are starting to bark, and they bark in unison. It's a very loud noise. I'm sitting in my living room, and I can hear them. I can hear them in my bedroom. But I sleep with earplugs, so
Why do you sleep with earplugs?
my husband snores.
Okay. Do you have anything else to tell the court about the dog issue?
I just think that it's not reasonable for the noise level. I understand. I had a dog. I understand the love of dogs. I do, and love of animals, but not in a subdivision.
Are you asking the court to use its power to take some corrective action here?
I am.
Okay. I'll tender the witness.
Cross-examine.
Good morning, Ms. Duchesne.
Yes.
Ms. Duchesne, you are located next to the defendants, is that correct, your property?
Our properties right up to each other.
All right, and is it your understanding that the defendants have 5.2 acres or thereabouts?
I have no idea.
And how far would you estimate in football field lengths your house is? Approximately 4 or 5?
No.
Football field lengths?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's 4 or 5. I'm terrible with distances, so, but no, it's not 4 or 5.
How many would you estimate?
Maybe 2.
2 football lengths away?
Maybe.
All right. And you testified that you can hear when they're going to feeding, so that would be approximately 2 times a day when they're eating?
Again, like I said, I'm not there all during the day, but I can hear them in the morning.
Okay. All right, so 1 time a day. Thank you, Your Honor. No more questions?
That's what I'm not saying, that's the only time I can hear them, because I'm not there during most of the day.
All right. Thank you very much. No more questions, Your Honor.
About anything further for this?
Nothing further.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. Let me call your next witness.
I'm going to call Miss Angie Thompson, please.
Thompson, if you'll step around, raise your right hand and face the clerk.
Ms. Thompson, you testified in this matter in August, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you're one of the petitioners in this case, is that true?
Yes.
Tell the court, just in your basic terms, has the problem gotten better?
I would say there have definitely been changes, and at times it's better. It is definitely different than it was in August. We waited patiently for the 30 days that the court gave. We thought that at the end of that 30 days that hopefully there would be big changes. That did not occur by the end of September. So we waited, through October. I think we reached out to you several times to keep you posted on what was going on. At this point, there have definitely been changes and, like, as I said, periods of improvement.
What time of day are you hearing the dogs now?
I hear them during the day most of the time. There have been some times at night, still 10, 11 o'clock, that I've heard them also.
Have you made some additional recordings?
I have.
Scott, I'd like to have just a second to connect my computer to the.
All right.
Stop this for a minute. Is this a video that you took?
No, that is a video that Pam DeShane took.
All right, I'll go past that and I'll call Mr. DeShane back.
Okay.
It's October 5th at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Is that your voice?
Yes.
Is that a video that you took?
Yes. From my yard, my property.
How far is your house from the Hawkins property?
Everybody uses this terminology, football fields. I don't know. It's through the yards. It's probably a couple of 100 yards. I think we've said before, maybe 300 yards.
Okay.
If you're going the road, obviously it's a longer distance, but through the property there, it's probably no more than 300 yards.
I understand.
But that is on my property.
What time of day was this video taken?
I think I just said it was 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And I think if I remember correctly, that particular morning, it was early October, and we had anticipated that the problem would be taken care of within 30 days. I was working and heard all this through, my window, and got outside to film it. Went outside to film it.
As you can see, the dogs are still on the back side of the pen towards the house on Camper Bean Road and are still barking.
Ms. McGill, who testified earlier, is her house much closer to the Hawkins than yours?
I would say so, yes, definitely.
This video, was it taken since the last time we were in court?
Yes.
This is from my back deck, but I could walk to the back of my yard and get a closer view.
This is another video. Is that a video that you took?
Yes, it looks like so. It looks like it is, yes.
Play a little bit of it and I'll stop it and you can describe it.
9:15 from the front of my house.
Is this video taken since the last time we were in court?
Yes.
I think you just testified, Ms. Thompson, that it was at 9:15 from the, or not testified, but I heard you say 9:15 from the front of your home.
Yes.
Now, why is that important that it's from the front of your home?
Because in the past, we've talked about the noise from the back of our home. Obviously, there's noise at the back of our home, but it's also from the front. I mean, you can hear it on any part of our property. It's just that the back part of our property is closest to the Hawkins property, so it's loudest. But it can also be heard from the front of our property or from the other side of our house, which is the farthest from the Hawkins home.
is where my office is, and I came outside because of this noise that I'm hearing inside the office.
One more here, Ms. Thompson. I'll ask you if it's your video. Is that your video?
Yes.
Was this video taken since the last time we were in court?
Yes.
I'll play it a little bit and then I'll stop it.
And Your Honor, defendants object to the last two videos. Witness has not stated whether or not these have occurred past the court's timeline for abating the noise, Your Honor.
I believe the first two, Mr. Potter asked her if this was before or after the last hearing, and she testified it was after. So your objection is to what?
Your Honor gave time for the defendants to abate the noise, Your Honor. We object on the basis that we do not know the date of this video and whether or not it was taken the day after the hearing or taken 2 weeks ago, Your Honor.
Well, I haven't moved them into evidence yet, Your Honor, so I'll ask her those questions.
It seemed to me that's a premature objection, so overrule the objection that's present until Potter attempts to introduce these as exhibits. And on this one, I mean, obviously the court's familiar with the time of year we're in, so it's clear from the video that the trees that were green in the first ones are now turned to a brown color and the leaves are on the ground, which leads the court to form an opinion, at least, that maybe it's been recently rather than in August, but we'll let Mr. Potter address that issue.
Ms. Thompson, the objection is whether or not these videos were taken more than 30 days since the last time we were in court, because they had 30 days to comply. Those first two videos that we saw, were they taken more than 30 days since the last time we were in court?
Yes, and that's the reason that I did it, because as I stated earlier, we had the expectation that 30 days after we were in court and the order was issued, that this issues would be resolved, and they weren't. And so I went outside and videoed these to demonstrate, to show that they had not been taken care of.
This video that we're watching here, was it taken more than 30 days after we were in court the last time?
Yes.
All right, I'll continue to play it. Is that a video from the back of your house?
Is it of the back of my house? From the back of my, I think that's from the side of my house.
The barking that we've heard on these videos, is it a fair representation of what you hear throughout the day?
Yes.
Are you asking the court to take some corrective action for this problem?
Yes.
Do you have any ill will against the Hawkins?
No, not at all.
Does the noise interfere with your enjoyment of your home?
Yes, it does.
The defendants were given 30 days to abate the problem. Is the noise still interfering with your enjoyment of your home?
I would say, in all honesty, not at the level that it was in August, but it does still exist.
Okay. Thank you. I'll tender the witness. Your Honor, I would move to introduce into evidence the 3 videos that she authenticated. And I have those on a thumb drive. I'll provide them. I intend to call Ms. Duchesne back to the stand to authenticate the first one, so I'll just wait and tender the thumb drive after they've all been.
Right. May I cross-examine?
Good morning, Ms. Thompson.
Good morning.
Yes, and you mentioned just now that the noise is not near as much as it was previously. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, and would you say it has decreased substantially both in time of day and in decibels?
I would say there have been changes, and then at periods of time, it seems there have not been. So, I would say that it's not as 24/7 as it has been for years, but it still does exist.
And before the court today, this last week, the noise level is substantially lower than it was in August. Is that correct?
Over the past few days, there have been changes. There is a difference. Yes.
All right, and over the last month, there have been changes. Is that correct?
More so in the past week. I would say that as we have approached this date, there have been changes.
And prior as well, now the court order was entered September 17. So let's say from the videos, the trees are changed. Would you say that was around September, early October that you took those videos?
Well, in the first two videos, I stated that it was October 5th.
Okay.
So we were in court.
Following...
We were in court, I think, August 24th. And our expectation from that date was that I believe they'd had 30 days to make changes, which would have been the end of September.
And do you understand the court order was entered September 17?
I wasn't sure of the exact date.
Thank you. No more questions, Your Honor.
Any further?
I don't have any more questions. I'll ask the court to take judicial notice of the order. The order itself says respondent shall have no more than 30 days from August 24, 2023 to bring their property within compliance with the Ridgely Farms Estate Section E restrictions. I have no further questions.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down.
Call Miss Pamela Duchesne back briefly, Your Honor, just to authenticate a video.
Objection, Your Honor. Witness was already called and released from testimony.
That would make a difference if the rule had been requested, but rule has not been requested, so therefore I overrule your objection.
It's also a party to the case, Your Honor. So,
I would remind you that you've been placed under oath and you remain under oath.
Do you recognize this video before I play it, Ms. Duchesne?
I do.
Did you take this video?
I did.
Do you know when you took this video?
I don't remember the exact date,
Okay,
but I believe it was in September.
okay. Are we looking at your backyard?
We are.
Is this noise that we're hearing representative of the noise that you hear often?
Yes.
Is that your swimming pool?
It is. And I know it has to be the end of September because that's when we had it closed, so it has to be toward the end of September.
Appears to have a cover on it.
It does.
So, before your pool was covered, when you were out there enjoying your pool with your family, did you hear that?
Yes. Yes, that's what I was saying earlier, that we were in the pool with my granddaughter who was about 10 months old or so when we had her out there, and the dog started, it scared her. We had to take her out of the pool.
I have no more questions for Ms. Duchesne. Thank you.
No further question, Your Honor.
I'd like to move for admission this thumb drive, proposed 4 videos on it.
Ms. Duchesne, you cannot state with certainty that that video was taken past the 30-day timeline from the court order, can you?
Again, wasn't the court order the end of the 28th August?
You were in court in August 24, so you cannot state with certainty that that video was taken past September 24, can you?
Not with certainty, no.
Thank you. No more questions, Your Honor.
Any further?
We have one final witness, Your Honor. I'm going to call Ms. Jones-Smith. Will you tell the court what your name is, ma'am?
Jones Smith,
Okay. Ms. Smith, where do you reside?
1248 Camp Ravine Road in Burns, Tennessee.
Where do you reside in relation to the Hawkins home?
We live, our front faces Camp Ravine, therefore our back faces, we're kitty cornered to Trinity Lane. We live next door to the Thompsons and our backyards face the same way.
Okay. Would your home then be approximately the same distance from the Hawkins home as the Thompsons home?
Exactly. Give it and take about 50 yards.
How long have you lived in your home?
13 years.
Okay. You're a party to this action, is that right? Why did you choose to be a party to this action?
Because the noise level got to be intolerable. It's been going on for several years, but it's just gotten worse in the last year. My husband is not well, and the noise really bothers him. We spend a lot of time in our kitchen dining room at the table or whatever, and that faces the dog pens, and so the noise is substantial most of the time.
Can you hear it inside your home?
Oh, yes. We don't go outside because my daughter fixed our deck for us, fancied it up and everything, and we can't use it because it's just constant.
Well, this case was in court on August the 24th, and the court ordered that the defendants had 30 days to remedy this problem. You're aware of that?
Yes.
So in the last couple of months, are you still experiencing a problem?
Yes. It's not, there are times when it's not as severe as it was before. There are periods of quiet occasionally, but sometimes it's just as horrendous as it was in August.
Are you asking the court to use its power to take further corrective action? Yes. I'll tender the witness.
A question?
Ms. Smith, good morning. Thank you for coming out here this morning.
You're welcome.
Now, you agree that you don't live next to the defendants, is that correct?
No.
All right, so you are multiple football fields away, is that correct?
Not multiple, maybe two.
And you agree that in the last several months, the noise levels have declined substantially, is that correct?
No, not substantially. There are periods when the noise level has declined, but I'm up late at night, and sometimes it's just as bad as it was before. Occasionally, there are times when it's quiet, and my husband and I commented on that, but it's not consistent.
Now, you stated that for years this has gone on, but however, in the last 3 months since the court hearing, it has decreased. Is that correct?
Yes, somewhat.
Thank you. No more questions, Your Honor.
Have nothing further for Ms. Smith.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down.
Thank you.
Potter?
And I have no further proof. That's our proof.
Plaintiffs have rested their proof. Does the defense wish to offer any proof?
Yes, Your Honor. Defense call Ms. Deborah Hawkins to the stand, Your Honor.
Hawkins, if you'll come up.
Good morning, Ms. Hawkins. Please state your name for the record.
Deborah K. Hawkins,
What is your address?
502 Trinity Lane,
How long have you lived there?
5 years.
What is your understanding of the court's order in this matter that was entered on September 17, 2023?
That we are to decrease the noise from the dogs.
What efforts have you engaged in to abide by this order?
Immediately upon receipt of the order, I have reached out to every local humane society and reached out to all of my personal and private contacts. I work at Vanderbilt University Medical Centers, so I've listed dogs for rehoming with multiple colleagues. I have asked my daughter, who was living towards Knoxville, to post flyers at all the local Tractor Supply and similar type stores, noting that we have animals for rehoming. I have had several colleagues take in animals to foster until they could find a new home, so to reduce the noise as quickly as possible, since it wasn't possible to find homes for all the dogs in 30 days. I have, do you mean who else I've reached out to? I mean, I have had dogs rehomed. A woman, I reached out through several different Facebook groups. I've had posts on Craigslist. I've put ads at the local, like local Tractor Supplies and stuff, noting. I've put ads on like puppy finder type websites, on the web. Basically anywhere I could think of to advertise with my personal and professional contacts. I've sent, I made a PDF up of all of the dogs for rehoming that had all their basic information about when they were born and their basic characteristics, so they could find an appropriate home. Think that in terms of where they've gone, we have one of the dogs was rehomed to Alaska. One was to Washington, D.C. Several have gone to a service dog organization in Florida. I've tried, it's very hard to rehome dogs in this current climate, and it wouldn't be appropriate to have them all live in the house immediately, so I have tried to rehome them to meet the order.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I may approach.
Yes.
Do you recognize the documents you were just handed?
Yes.
What are these?
These are some of the places that the rescue and other organizations that we reached out to try and rehome the animals.
Your Honor, we submit these as Defendants Exhibit 1.
We don't do them as plaintiff or defense, we'll just mark them in order. So that would be
Thank you,
number
Your Honor.
3, 2, 3.
Number 3, thank you. Ms. Hawkins, when did you start making these efforts to rehome these animals?
Immediately upon leaving court.
How many states would you estimate you've traveled to take animals for rehoming?
Well, it's been a family and professional colleague affair, so not just me, but also family and friends have taken dogs we've met people who were coming from Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky, Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, Mississippi, Georgia. And I think I mentioned Alaska. I met the person and they flew the dog to Alaska. We did not drive to Alaska.
Are you charging for these animals at this point, or are you?
No, we are just trying to find them appropriate, humane homes.
Have you paid organizations to take these animals?
No.
Where all have you posted advertisements?
Well, in the puppies.com, local shopping network, the Tennessean, the paper, and another dog site that's Hobley classifieds, one that I think is called Pet Finder. Those are the places we've posted ads. Also on my personal Facebook, I've sent people pictures of dogs to forward to try to help them find homes.
And what remaining animals do you have on your property?
Only pets inside the house.
You no longer have any juvenile canines or puppies, is that correct?
No, we don't have any. We even rehomed, I understand there were 2 stray cats who had come to live at our house. They had been dumped there. And so we got them spayed and neutered, but they had been always outdoor cats and they were listed. So we also rehomed them.
Where are the remaining animals kept on your property?
In the house.
How are these animals fed?
With dog bowls.
How frequently do you feed them?
Once in the morning and once in the evening. Although some of the dogs just have food down all day, so it just depends on the day. But sometimes if they're just in our room, they can just eat and drink whenever they care to.
And you are not paid for these animals. These animals are your pets.
Correct.
And at the time of purchasing the property, you were not aware of any restrictions on it. Is that correct?
I was not.
Do neighbors come and shine lights on your dog kennels located on your property after dark?
That has been a new feature, yes.
How many times would you say that's happened?
I've had people taking videos from nearby or driveway or other times, at least 5 to 10 times since we were in court last.
And where are these dwellings located on your property?
The kennels?
Yes.
The property is 5 acres, and our house sits towards the east side of it, and the kennels are to the west side of the property. Basically, somewhat. The kennels are close to the fence line at the north side of the property. They're closest to that side of the fence line, and they're over towards the west.
About how far would you estimate these dwellings are from your property line?
Towards the north property line, a short distance, like no more than 100 feet from the north property line. From the east property line, which is where Camp Ravine Road is, I would estimate at least 300 yards or more.
Your Honor, if I may approach.
You may.
Do you recognize the photographs, Ms. Hawkins, that you were just handed?
Yes.
What are these photographs of?
My pets.
And how many of these do you currently have?
7.
These are well cared for, well maintained indoors, is that right?
Yes.
Enter these as Exhibit 4. No more questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Potter, you may cross-examine.
Ms. Hawkins, I'm Tim Potter. I represent the petitioners. You were not here in August, is that true?
That's correct.
Miss Deborah Hawkins was here, is that right?
No, that's Sandra Hawkins was here. I'm Deborah Hawkins.
You're Deborah Hawkins, okay.
Yes, sir.
Is Miss Sandra Hawkins your spouse or?
Yes.
Okay. She testified in this case, is that right?
Yes.
I'm confused by your testimony today. Are these dogs kept inside your home or in kennels?
These dogs are kept 100% inside my home at this time.
Okay, since when?
Since probably the last 2 weeks or so. Basically, what we've been trying to do is rehome all of the dogs and that we could. And since then, I mean, they go outside to go to the bathroom. They go outside to play, but they are sleeping indoors, living indoors, those things.
Obviously, you heard Animal Control Officer Swall's testimony that he was on your property 1 week ago and he identified 25 to 30 animals.
I did hear that, yes.
Are you saying that that's incorrect?
I think there were 20 at the time. And I think that when he did come, all of the dogs that live inside were outside playing outside. And there were a few over in the kennels that have now been rehomed.
How many total dogs do you have on your property today?
7.
7 total dogs?
Yes, sir.
Those are both adult dogs and puppies?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You do recognize that we've made an allegation to the court that at one time you had 15 adult dogs and 30 puppies. Is that accurate?
Probably. I don't count them in that way, but yes, that sounds accurate.
And you were operating a breeding business from your home. Is that true?
No.
You were selling these dogs, right?
Most of this is a hobby activity. That's not my business.
Do you recognize that your spouse testified at the last hearing that in 2023 you had sold about 10 dogs for $400 a piece?
In 2023, we did not sell 10 dogs for $400 a piece.
And you understand that that was a finding of the court?
Can you explain what that means, sir?
The temporary order that was entered in this case following the August hearing said in paragraph 4, the respondents are operating a puppy breeding business on their property. The respondents admitted selling 10 dogs in 2023 at a price of $400 per dog. That's what the judge found.
Are you sure that it wasn't in 2022? Because that wouldn't be accurate for 2023.
You're still selling dogs, right?
No,
You're not?
that's correct.
Passing you a Facebook post.
Uh-huh.
Is that in fact a Facebook post that you posted?
It is not?
That is not something you posted.
No, sir, I did not post this.
You're Deborah Hawkins, is that true?
That is correct.
And Sandra Hawkins, is this her Facebook page?
It is her Facebook page.
Are you aware of her posting this post?
I am aware that she's posted a number of different places. Yes, sir.
Okay, let's just read it and I'll ask you some questions about it.
Sure.
As some of you might know, others not.
Objection, Your Honor. This is, the witness has not authenticated this document. This cannot be entered into admissibility, Your Honor.
I'm not moving for it to be admitted, Your Honor. I'm going to ask her some questions about the facts in this post. I'm happy to call Ms. Sandra Hawkins as the next witness.
Well, this witness has identified it as a post by a co-defendant in the case, so therefore it would be, again, a statement of a party opponent, so overrule the objection.
Thank you. Let's read the post, please. As some of you might know, others not so much, we're being forced to get rid of our fur babies because there are people who don't like us breeding. And stop there. You've been breeding. Is that true?
Yes, we breed dogs, but that's not for profit.
Okay, let's continue. We no longer have the rights to do what we want on our own property. It's truly mind-blowing and heartbreaking. We have less than a week to find a home for these fur babies, or the court will have them taken all to the pound. These babies deserve much better than being mistreated by the system. Please help me find them new homes. We're willing to drive and meet up within reasonable distance, asking a small fee for the poodles to make sure whoever gets them can properly groom them. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, sir.
So you are still selling the poodles?
If you would like to call recouping the expenses that we've paid for the vet selling, you may do that.
I'm referring to you giving a product, a dog, to someone and them giving you money in return. Are you still doing that, ma'am?
I don't know how to answer your question, sir.
How about truthfully?
I am answering it truthfully to the best of my knowledge, sir.
When you give dogs to a third party, have they given you money for those dogs?
Object to form, Your Honor.
Pardon?
Object to form.
I don't even know how to respond to that.
Not sure that I understand the objection, but overruled.
Leading, Your Honor.
Pardon?
Counsel is leading witness, Your Honor.
As is cross-examination counsel, so he's entitled to lead the witness. So.
Your Honor, we object on the basis that counsel is badgering witness as well, Your Honor. Witness has already sworn that she is saying everything truthfully, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
You've given dogs to people and they've given you money in exchange for those dogs,
They
correct?
have covered the vet expenses only. There has been no attempt for profit, only to find them a good home that's safe for them. There are people who use free dogs for dog fights. It's been a very difficult process to rehome these dogs, given that the majority of the shelters and rescues have told us they are not accepting any animals and will not accept animals. So while we've been now successful to reduce our numbers to the 7 that are in the house 100% of the time, which is what I understood, it has taken us longer to get there. And I fully admit that it has taken us longer to get there and still find safe homes for these dogs. But we've attempted to be in compliance at the quickest moment we could.
What's the most dogs you've had on your property at one time?
I think the number when we first went to court.
And that was around 45 dogs.
Agree, yes.
Okay, you do understand that your spouse testified at the last hearing that there were between 12 and 15 dogs on the property.
Because when you're talking about dogs and puppies, she thinks of things differently. Like some of these puppies are this big.
A puppy's not a dog.
Well,
What's your definition of a puppy?
typically, a puppy would be an animal, in my mind, under a year old that is not capable of reproducing. A dog would be a full-grown animal in how I think of things. So when you talk about puppies, for example, some puppies might be this big.
Do you have plans for any further corrective action?
I don't know what further corrective action you seek.
Well, you've testified under oath that you now only have 7 animals on your property.
That live 100% indoors, yes, sir.
100% indoors.
That go outside only to go to the bathroom and play.
And that's your objective, is to keep no more than 7 animals in your home all the time.
Well, my objective is to keep pets that are in my home all the time. I don't have an exact number that I had in mind. It's my understanding that the remedy that the court sought was to not have dogs barking outside. And that my understanding was that the judge asked for us to remedy things, and one of the proposed remedies was to keep the dogs living indoors, not living outdoors. And so that's what we've sought to do.
Do you recognize and agree that you've not been in compliance with the subdivision restrictions in your neighborhood?
I was not aware of the subdivision regulations until you brought them to us in court.
That's the first time you read them, right?
That is correct.
And do you recognize and would you testify that it's reasonable for these citizens, these neighbors of yours, to come to court in order to correct this problem?
I don't know what is and isn't reasonable. I would have thought knocking on the door would have been a first reasonable step. I also do not agree that the noise is constant, and we brought videos at our prior hearing that were not admissible, showing the long periods of time that the dogs are not barking.
You think the noise that you heard on these videos that have been played in court is reasonable, that neighbors should have to endure that type of noise?
I
Is that your
think
opinion?
that those are short periods of noise, and I think that the periods of duration have been, those are clips that are a couple minutes long. Usually the duration it takes to go out and feed and water the dogs, which is when they tend to make the most noise.
Okay. So your testimony is that that is only for a short duration. You do agree, however, that the noise that we heard is not appropriate?
I do, and having it brought to our awareness, which I was previously, as I said, had anyone ever knocked on my door and said this was a problem, it would have been addressed outside of court. I don't seek to annoy my neighbors, but their remedy was to take me to court, so here I am.
You've received letters about it, right?
I received an anonymous letter stating that basically that breeding was an immoral activity and it should stop, and that it was bothersome, and that I was a bothersome neighbor. It was anonymous. There was no one to address with it. I am surrounded by people in a neighborhood. I would not know who had this problem to address it. I honestly thought, given that it was anonymous, that it was to be thrown away.
Well, in addition to whatever anonymous letter you're referring to, you also received a letter from my office prior to a lawsuit being filed asking you to take corrective action. Is that true?
It asked me to stop my breeding business, and I don't have a breeding business. I enjoy dogs, and this is a hobby. You had several allegations in your letter that I just simply don't think are true.
You ignored it.
I didn't know what to do with it. Honestly, I've never been directed by the court to do anything in my life.
You ignored it, right?
I looked at it. I wouldn't say I ignored it, no. I looked at it, and I didn't know what to do with it. I asked my parents what to do with it. They said, wait, so I did.
You have had a breeding business on the property, correct?
I do not have a business, sir.
Listen to my
A
question.
business is something that you make money from. I don't make money breeding dogs. It's a hobby. I take care of cancer patients during the day, and it's very pleasing to play with dogs in the afternoon.
Have you and your spouse breeded dogs and sold them?
Not for a profit, sir. That seems to be the confusion here. We spend so much money on all of the taking care of these dogs. This is something we do because we love them and enjoy them. And we didn't know it was bothering the neighbors.
All right, so I understand the semantics that are being played here. So I'm gonna
Well,
ask
you're
you again.
using the semantics, sir.
Your testimony, I think, is that you have sold dogs for money. You just haven't made a profit.
That is correct.
And so therefore, it's not a business. Is
By
that
the
your
IRS
argument?
definition of business, sir, that is correct. Had I tried to file it on my tax return as a loss, I would be audited. And they would say that I can't count a loss for a hobby against my income from my profession.
So have you ever reported on your income tax return any income you've received from the sale of a dog?
Objection, Your Honor. This goes beyond the claims and defenses in this lawsuit, Your Honor, and this is not relevant.
Respectfully, Your Honor, it's cross-examination and.
I don't know what this has to do with the
Ma'am,
noise
when there's-
level of my
Ma'am,
dog, sir.
when there's an objection, you just need to be quiet while I address that. Okay?
Sure.
Mr. Potter, you were saying, I'm sorry.
Ms. Hawkins, have you ever claimed?
No, wait a minute, we're still on
I'm
the
sorry,
objection.
I thought you told me to go ahead.
If you want to respond to the objection, objection is it's outside the scope of this lawsuit. However, I think that the question, we are dealing with somewhat semantics. And it becomes an issue of exactly what was the purpose of this operation of it being. Why were you breeding dogs?
So my wife had a traumatic brain injury, and after which we could not afford a service dog. So we started breeding to try and raise a service dog for her. And we actually bred and raised up and trialed several different dogs to act as a service animal because she gets vestibular migraines and to alert for. And you probably know this, but service dogs tend to cost fully trained like 60 grand. So we started raising from puppies and training different dogs, several different candidates to try and get one who would have the ability to work in the capacity as a service dog. Once we started doing this, of course, that means there are some dogs that aren't suitable for service dog candidates. So we then found them family homes, and it was something that we enjoyed doing. I know that there's a restriction in place now in our neighborhood, but when I looked it up, I saw that it was, if you have over 5 acres, it's zoned agricultural. And I thought we were in compliance with all, laws and licensure and things. And I did it because honestly, I really like dogs, and my profession is somewhat serious, and so having the levity of puppies and playing with them and doing all of that. Also, we have our youngest child has significant developmental delays, and one of the things her doctor said that was the most important for her is for her to kind of like engage in doing activities, so like taking care of dogs is something that she's helped out doing that has helped her hand-eye coordination and stuff like that. So we did it because we liked it. And then there were people that got really excited, because they would meet her dog and say, oh my gosh, she's so amazing. I wish I could get a dog like that. And so we were just breeding, and we kept a list of people who wanted dogs. And when it came up, we would rehome them whenever we had a litter.
You understand that looking at the photographs, you have outside cages that are very, very commercial looking. In other words, I've had dogs all my life, and I love dogs too. There's one sitting in my home waiting for me to get home today. But all I'm saying is that the operation appears to be a commercial operation when you look at the structure of the cages and so forth. And I guess my question had been, I know we talk about semantics about whether you were doing it commercially or not, but the question is you were breeding, and you were breeding more than just an occasional litter of puppies. You had multiple litters of puppies, correct?
Yes, sir. Like I said, people got really interested in it, and it sort of, at the time, not long after my wife's traumatic brain injury, she couldn't work, and it gave her something to do, to stay, there was a period of time where she was not capable of working.
How large
She
is
can't.
your house?
It's, I think, 4,000 square feet.
And you have 7 dogs. You and your wife live there, and your daughter lives there as well?
2 daughters, yes.
2 daughters.
Well, 3 right now are living there.
So all of you are residing inside that same house?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But as mentioned, I will not have them be outside any longer.
I'm going to overrule the objection that was made based upon it goes to the credibility of the witness regarding the questions Mr. Potter is asking about the commercial nature or whether it was actually a hobby. So, Mr. Potter, you may ask your question again.
Question was, have you reported any of the income that you've received from the breeding and sale of these dogs on your income taxes?
No, sir. I have kept track, and we have net a loss every year.
And do you understand that your spouse testified at the last hearing that dogs were being sold for $400 a dog?
Dogs have been sold on average for $400 a dog, yes. I read that transcript, yes, sir.
And you don't have a business license?
No, although we did look into whether a business license was necessary, and it was neither necessary for the USDA or the state. And we do have documentation of that.
And your testimony is that you don't have any intention of doing anything else to follow the court's order. In other words, the court asked you to abate this problem within 30 days. Is it your position that you've now done everything that you need to do?
Unless someone tells me we haven't. I thought that the request was to abate the noise by keeping the dogs inside, and as their, main issue. I don't know if we've also started dismantling the former kennels where they were outside, as clear indication that we do not intend to have them outside any longer.
When did you start doing that?
About a month ago.
You understand that as of a week ago, you had several kennels outside.
I didn't say we dismantled them all. I worked full-time. I've just taken down a couple of them, honestly.
How many did you have?
Well, 3. And, but there's panels that go into it, and they're kind of heavy, so I just took down parts of them at a time.
All right, thank you.
Redirect.
Your Honor. Ms. Hawkins, would you agree that the care, the veterinary expenses, the feeding of each animal far exceeds $400?
Most certainly. Just the initial vet visit is, for each dog, at least a quarter of that or more.
And you were not aware that you were in violation of any restrictive covenants, is that right?
I was not.
All right. And you have, since the court order on August 24, done your best to remain in compliance with that court order, is that right?
Your Honor. Object to the leading.
Staying, it's the difference when it's your witness.
What have you done since August 24 to be in compliance with the court order?
Well, honestly, every day when I come home from work, I've been working. This has been like my second full-time job, because the biggest thing is that due to COVID, there were a lot of people who took on animals that they couldn't manage. And so then they have all dumped them upon the shelters and the humane societies and other things. So those places are full right now. And everyone that thought they wanted a dog got one during COVID. And so it's been very challenging to get all of these animals rehomed, even for free. Nobody wants dogs right now.
Thank you, Your Honor. No more questions.
Anything further, Mr. Potter?
Other than to mark as an exhibit the Facebook post that I had the witness, you mark that as the next exhibit.
Mark that as the next exhibit.
And we sustain our objection, Your Honor, regarding that exhibit.
Overrule the objection. It'll be marked as an exhibit. Ma'am, you may step down.
Yes.
You may call your next witness. Actually, let's take our mid-morning recess. We'll stand in recess for 15 minutes.
McGill, as His Honor said, you're still under oath. There's a couple of refreshers. You live in the house adjacent to the Hawkins. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay. You heard her testimony. Miss Deborah Hawkins testified that they now have 7 dogs and they're keeping them in the home. Do you have any information to offer the court regarding your observations in the last few days?
Yesterday, my ex-husband, who came in to help me with my daughter, was taking a walk, and he saw puppies out beside the house.
Objection, Your Honor.
You can't testify to what someone else said to you. Have
Your
you
objection
observed?
is to hearsay, Mr. Potter is
Say
sustaining
it's
your
speculative.
objection.
The
I
witness
agree.
did not.
Yeah, I agree that you can't testify to what someone else told you.
Okay, yeah, well, I didn't see them myself, but I've seen the dogs on the deck.
And when have you seen the dogs on the deck?
I saw them today, or no, yesterday.
That's all I have, Your Honor. I thought it was her personal observation.
No further questions, Your Honor.
When you said you saw the dogs from your deck today?
No, I saw the dogs on their deck.
On their deck. How many did you see?
I saw 6 adult dogs.
And what, was that a problem for you if those dogs would just goes out occasionally?
No, but one time maybe not these dogs, but some dogs from there came to my house and came in my garage, and one of them was seemed a little aggressive. I wasn't afraid, but I didn't know if it was going to do anything.
Anything further?
Nothing further.
Thank you, ma'am. You may stand down.
I have no further rebuttal proof.
What? Does the defense have any other rebuttal proof?
No, Your Honor.
Then I'll hear you an argument.
Your Honor, regarding the motion for contempt that we filed, proceeding under civil contempt, Your Honor made certain findings by order in August that was later entered in September, and that order found that the parties were conducting a breeding business on the property. Your Honor found that they were selling dogs. Your Honor found that the actions of these respondents had violated the subdivision restrictions, Section E of the restrictive covenants. And Your Honor gave them a certain amount of time, 30 days, to abate that problem. They have not done that. We've got some very credible witnesses that you've heard from the community. Ms. McGill, Ms. Smith, Ms. Duchesne, Ms. Thompson have all testified that the problem is still an unbearable problem. It's intolerable. It's causing them problems. Ms. McGill, who's not even a party to this action, has come forward to confirm that she lives adjacent to the Hawkins, and she has a daughter who's convalescing from serious health issues. She's had to move her to a different area of the house. She's had to use a fan to help muffle the noise of the problem. More importantly, you heard from Animal Control Officer Swaw, who's very credible. He has no reason to come into this court and manipulate any of the information before the court. And he's testified that a week ago, 11/28, they had 25 to 30 dogs on this property. That's very credible. I know Miss Deborah Hawkins has testified too that they now only have 7 dogs that are in the home. That simply is not to be believed. And if it is to be believed, what they've done is they've hidden the dogs. They've moved the dogs in anticipation of this hearing, and we're going to be right back in court trying to address it again because they've not taken the orders of this court seriously. The testimony of Miss Deborah Hawkins today is not credible. She's tried to play semantics about whether or not they've had a business and not sold the dogs because they've not made a profit on the dogs. I don't know if that's true or not, but I would submit to Your Honor, a business that doesn't make profit is still a business. And the court's already previously found that they were conducting a business of breeding dogs on the property. She didn't bother reading the subdivision restrictions on the property, and they're in violation. And so I don't know how the court addresses remedying this. I'm asking the court to hold them in civil contempt. And civil contempt, as Your Honor's always known, means that they have the key to the jail. They can purge themselves of the contempt. And if Your Honor gave them a certain period of time and said, you're going to remove these dogs from the property, they just simply have to be removed from the property. They cannot be outside. There cannot be a continuing noise problem. And so how do we check that? I don't know how we check that. I would submit Animal Control Officer Swall is still here. He's a county officer. The court could order that an officer go back to the property in so many days to go monitor and provide information about whether or not they're in compliance with the order of this court, so that they simply haven't removed these dogs and brought them back to the court. Here's what's one of the things that is so concerning about this is the last time we were in court, Miss Sandra Hawkins testified. And Miss Sandra Hawkins testified, in my recollection, that there were between, I think, 12 or 15 dogs on the property is what she testified to. But we now know that that was not true. We now know that at that very time, they had about 45 dogs on the property, 15 adult dogs and 30 puppies that they're saying could be 1 to 2 years old. That's 45 very loud dogs, and that's been confirmed today through the testimony of Miss Deborah Hawkins, and it's consistent with what the animal control officer is still telling us. So it's a problem, and I don't know, I hate that these parties have to keep coming back to court to address the problem that they did not create. And in addition to that, I'm asking Your Honor to order that the Hawkins reimburse my clients their reasonable and necessary attorney's fees. We asked for that in our motion, and we're asking that the court order that. That should be ordered because these parties, these fine persons, Ms. Smith, Ms. Duchesne, etc., they're having to incur attorney's fees to my firm to come back to court to ask this court to do something that should have already been done. And I would ask that I be permitted on their behalf to submit an affidavit to the court and to opposing counsel of my fees and itemization of those fees, and counsel be given 10 days to object to those fees, but the fees be awarded to the petitioners in this case. Regarding the motion to compel, I think counsel makes a reasonable argument that there was not a written notice sent to her about the deficiency in those responses. I would just submit to Your Honor that we will pass our motion to compel to a later date, and that this motion itself be deemed compliance with the local rule of notice of deficiency, and just they can take notice of it, and I'll reset that motion to a later date. Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor. We are here on defendant's response to the motion for contempt, Your Honor. The court order specifically provided that the respondents must abate the noise. The court stated that the court did not care how it is done so long as it complies with the applicable restrictions. That is referring to the Ridgelia Farm estate restrictions, Your Honor. The Ridgelia Farm estate restrictions that the court discusses in its orders, specifically number 1, 12, and 20, state no animals other than pet cats or dogs are allowed. That's number 12. All dogs and cats are to be confined to owner's lot. Your Honor, there is no restriction on the number of pet cats or dogs contained within these Ridgelia Farm estates restrictions. Furthermore, we've heard testimony today from the plaintiff's witnesses as well as the defendant's witness that the noise levels have abated, that there is evidence of compliance with this court's order. Your Honor, whether a particular level of noise constitutes a nuisance depends on a variety of circumstances. Among those relevant circumstances are the locality, the character of the neighborhood, the nature of the use causing the noise, the extent and frequency of the injury, the time of day when the noise occurs, and the effects on the enjoyment of life, health, and property to those affected by the noise. Numerous witnesses of plaintiffs testified that the noise has lowered and receded since the court's order in August. Furthermore, Ms. McGill just testified that she only witnessed 6 dogs. Defendant Deborah Hawkins testified similarly that they now have a limited number they contain within the household in compliance with this court's order. The court stated that suggestions, not limited to selling the dogs, transferring the dogs to someone else, or keeping the dogs inside. The defendants have removed a number of animals from the property, a far number, at least 6/7 of the original, Your Honor, have been removed from the property. At this time, defendants put before the court that they are in compliance with the court for those reasons. Furthermore, defendant Deborah Hawkins testified to beginning the process of dismantling the kennels. Your Honor, these actions are in compliance with the court order and do not demonstrate the requisite willfulness necessary for a finding of civil contempt. They have done everything possible, Your Honor, to comply with this court order, contacting numerous rescues, kennels, as well as pet finder boards, online applications to distribute pets. They've reached out to colleagues. The testimony showed they reached out to colleagues. These dogs have been relocated throughout the U.S. Your Honor, they have done everything possible to find homes for the remaining animals. And based on that, the defendants do request this court find that the plaintiffs cannot establish the necessary willfulness for a finding of contempt. Your Honor, we put forth Robinson versus Hydraulics Engineering Company, that's 214 Tennessee 30, Tennessee 1960s 4, while the power to punish for contempt may and should be used in appropriate cases, it should not be used unless the case clearly calls for its exercise, and such power should be exercised only when necessary to prevent actual direct obstruction of or interference with the administration of justice. Defendants have put forth evidence today, Your Honor, that they are not obstructing with the administration of justice. They are in compliance with the court order. They have removed these animals. They are keeping the remaining animals indoors as pets, and they request that Your Honor deny this motion, deny any request for fees made by plaintiff's counsel as well, Your Honor. And in regards to the motion for compel, defendants do not object to the notice. Defendants simply request plaintiff's counsel provide further information regarding additional requests for production of documentation sought on the motion to compel, Your Honor. Thank you.
Anything further, Mr. Potter?
Nothing further.
Let me first say that this is not a case where the court in any way, shape, form, or fashion faults someone for loving dogs. I've had dogs since I was a little boy, and I've had them almost my entire adult life. And I had a dog one time that became a problem dog, and I had to make arrangements to get that dog out of the area because I had neighbors that became aggressive, and I had neighbors that had small children, and they tended to walk through the yard. So out of safety for those children, I got rid of the dog that I cared a great deal about to protect those children. Point of that story is this. All of us have a right to utilize our property and the land that we own in a way that we want to, until our exercise of our property rights butts up against the rights of our neighbors to have peaceful enjoyment of their own property. And that's really what the law is that the defendants have a right to utilize their property as they see fit until the utilization of that property and the method by which they utilize it begins to then interfere with the peaceful enjoyment of their surrounding neighborhood. For example, if they decided to play loud music all hours of the night out in the neighborhood, that would be another example of it. So I think everyone involved in this case, even the witnesses, have dogs or animals, and they don't fault it. This court held a hearing back in August, and at that time I made certain findings, and those were set forth in the temporary order. And those were that the court was familiar with the residential area, and that's the other thing. This is not in the country, so to speak, as you might explain. It's not sitting on a farm, situated on a farm out in the middle of the country. This is in a residential neighborhood, an improvement that has residential restrictions. And whether the defendants did or did not read those residential restrictions at the time they purchased the property is not relevant. They exist and they're bound by them, by the fact that they purchased the property subject to those residential restrictions. The neighbors who live around them, many of them were owned their property prior to the defendants purchasing the property. And the residential restrictions clearly specify certain things, and among those is that if they're not to have a commercial business or operation, the property shall be used for residential purposes only. Number 12, all dogs and cats are to be confined to the owner's lot and not to interfere with the peace and enjoyment of the neighbors. So while counsel for the defendant points out it doesn't specify how many dogs you can have, that's true. You can have one dog. But if that dog interferes with the peaceful enjoyment of your neighbor's property, you're in violation of the restrictions. When you buy property subject to the restrictions, you adhere to them or you agree to them, whether you read them or not. Number 20 is no commercial business will be housed or operated either permanently or temporarily, excluding developer operational sites, sales, and construction office. Looking at these photographs, clearly those photographs show what this court finds to be somewhat of a commercial operation, more than just a hobby type situation. And whether we talk about whether it was a hobby or whether it was a commercial business venture, is academic, it's semantics. These defendants were breeding dogs and breeding large number of dogs, and then having those dogs out in the yard. And according to the audios and video that we heard in August and again today, those dogs interfered with the peaceful enjoyment that their neighbors had of their property. So, court entered an order back in August that basically found those to be the facts, and that I found that they were operating a puppy breeding business. And whether they were making money on it or not is not the issue. It could have been a hobby. There are a lot of hobbies that constitute business. Fact of the matter is that you don't have 25 or 30 dogs and puppies that you're breeding and then say that basically that's just because you love dogs and so forth. This court is of the opinion that the testimony of the defendant, Ms. Sandra Hawkins, at the prior hearing in August was more likely to be accurate than the testimony of Ms. Deborah Hawkins today, and that it was some 10 dogs sold for $400 a piece, and that constitutes, in this court's mind, a business. It doesn't have to be a very profitable business to make it a business. And the evidence of the photographs of the cages and so forth clearly indicate it's more than a hobby and more of a commercial business venture. So the court found that and ordered that the respondents shall have not more than 30 days from August the 24th to bring their property into compliance with Ridgelia Farms Estates Section E restrictions. The respondents must abate the noise by said deadline. The court does not care how it is done so long as it complies with the applicable restrictions. Suggestions by the court include, but are not limited to, selling the dogs, transferring the dogs to someone else, or keeping the dogs inside. It is further ordered, adjudged, and decreed that failure to comply with this temporary order may result in an order of contempt by this court. Pardon me, and it goes on to say, and further ordered, adjudged, and decreed that any matter not addressed by this temporary order is reserved pending further orders of the court. So now what we have before us is the testimony of Animal Control Officer Swan, who on November the 28th, just a week or so ago, went to the property in response to a complaint and observed 25 to 30 animals. November the 28th was more than 30 days from August the 24th, so there's no question that these animals were not there. These videos that have been introduced clearly show that the noise had not abated as of the date of 30 days from the entry of this order. Therefore, the court does find that there's been a violation of the court's order and that the defendants are in willful contempt of the violation of the court's order. Sanctions are not, in this court's opinion, necessarily an appropriate remedy. If this court takes the position that they have made some efforts and they've tried to do that, and the defendants, Ms. Hawkins in particular, takes the position, well, we've done a lot, we've tried to get rid of them. Whose fault is it that there were these numbers of dogs? And that's another example of why this is such a bad idea to have this in a residential neighborhood, because you're trying to give these dogs away and you can't do it. And you're right, shelters everywhere are overrun because of puppy mills, and you see on the news every so often where conditions are such, dogs are found, multiple dogs are found in what we call a puppy mill. I'm not saying this was a puppy mill, but I am saying that it was a irresponsible action on the part of these defendants to start a breeding operation in a residential area that generated this number of dogs. And now we have a problem with, I love dogs. I hate to see dogs mistreated, and to try to dispose of these dogs. And as pointed out, there are a lot of people who will take, free dogs and then they'll abuse those dogs in some way. So my concern is only to try to end the noise problem that exists in this neighborhood. The noise that was demonstrated by these videos today might be appropriate if you live. I walk outside on my farm and I hear dogs and I hear coyotes everywhere. but that's not the same as living in a residential neighborhood with restrictions, and you hear the dogs as demonstrably, as Ms. Duchesne's pointed out, she can't even enjoy her pool or her back deck because of this noise. So court does find the defendants to be in civil contempt. The court is going to reserve any sort of imposition of sentence on this because it's been indicated that they are still trying to resolve the issue and that they now have 7 dogs only, and that those dogs are still in the house, and that they're going to be allowed. If you're going to have 7 dogs, that's fine. That's your choice to have 7 dogs in the house with you, your spouse, and your children. I've had dogs all my life, as I say, and it would be kind of hard for me to imagine that, but that's your choice to make. In any event, the fact of the matter that you have 7 dogs, if you turn 7 dogs out into a yard and in an evening or whatever to let them play, as you said, and they start, barking, then we're in the same situation we've always been, whether it's 7 dogs or 25 dogs. It is the noise that arises from that situation. So you're going to have to do something to ensure that those dogs don't disrupt the neighborhood peace and quiet and enjoyment of your neighbors. But I don't choose to impose any sort of sanctions at this time, Mr. Potter, until we see whether or not this is going to resolve it, because some of the witnesses have said the noise has been abated. So I'm going to set this matter for a hearing and a review of the situation. And I realize it causes everyone to have to come back, but I'm going to set it for February the 15th. Give them a couple of months to see how this situation pans out. Now, I intend for this noise abatement, this noise problem to be abated. And I think you're trying to make efforts. I take it, I don't agree with everything that you said as being forthcoming, but I understand you're trying to bring yourself into compliance, and you say you've got 7 dogs. Well, those 7 dogs cannot be allowed out in the yard in the evening or during the day. That's going to disrupt your neighborhood. So you're going to have to find a way to deal with those dogs so that it does not do that. And we will then see what happens in February between now and then. And Mr. Potter, you're free to file whatever is necessary from today forward if there are further problems. But my other option is to order that you have to sell those dogs that you have, or you have to dispose of them, or have them put down. I don't want to do that. I want you to have the dogs you want to have, or to give them a good home. But don't push me into a situation where, because it's still creating a neighborhood problem, that I have to take more punitive action. I don't want to do it, but I will do it if I have to. And so we'll see between now and February if the neighborhood peace and quiet can be preserved. If not, we'll take more draconian actions at that point in time. I will reserve the issue of the request for attorney's fees until that hearing in February. And I hope that will resolve the issue, and then we can only address whatever costs that might have been involved in it and not have to do anything further about punitive action. That is the judgment of the court. Mr. Potter will draw the order, and I will ask that you submit that to counsel for the opposing party.
Yes, sir, I'll do it. Thank you.